I'll be like, oh, I think I know names. And then as soon as I say something, I'm like, whoa, I just butchered their name.
Yep. I'll just freeze. Like, I'm just not going to talk to this person. Like, I'm just going to walk
No.
away.
Well, I've done that where, so because like English culture, it's like, some people might deny it or whatnot, but where I'm from, we're very huggy people. So when I come to America and everyone does the handshakes, I was like, oh, I've not really done a handshake. And so I concentrate so hard on getting the handshake right, I just completely miss what their name was. And then 3 weeks will go past and I'm like, I still don't know their name. And it's too late for me to know. Like,
If they just let me hug them, I would know their name.
yeah, you're like, and then so you just go up and you're like, hey, you.
Yeah.
Or if they're across the other side of the bar, I'd walk one side to the other side just to talk to them.
Oh, like, man, being socially awkward is the best.
Yes.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Dodgeball podcast. Joining me today is Jenny. Jenny, thanks for hopping on. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. How are you doing?
Pretty good. And we're just talking about how there's a big difference in climate and states and time zones, and talking about how people like don't even pump their own gas and completely random. But let's just
no digs at certain states. There, no digs.
Definitely not digging on Oregon at all, and I think you weren't digging on New Jersey. So yeah, it's starting out on the right foot there. But well, what's your last name? It's Hodge, right?
Yes. So it's like Dodge, Hodge, Dodge.
Too
or
easy.
I always say like hodgepodge without the podge.
Awesome. And what team do you play for?
So this year I'm playing with Royale Dodgeball for the women's, and then for co-ed I'm with Goat this season.
Nice. Were you with Goat last season? Were you?
No, I was with Arkham.
Okay.
So like with Josh Ty and Jose and everyone. But Edgar, that's one Goat used to be with Arkham the season before.
Okay. Is Arkham are they still around?
Yeah, they're still around. I think they still have all the players from New York City.
Okay.
But Alfred Kwan and I were both on Arkham, but we moved to Ohio. And so we decided to leave the team because everybody got to practice together all locally. So we wanted to branch out and do different teams this season.
Gotcha. And so thank you for reminding me. So you're originally from New York, right? Is that correct?
Well, I'm from England.
Oh, we'll get there, trust me.
Yeah, we'll get there. But probably 3 years ago, when I moved to America, I moved to New York. So it was probably up until Labor Day weekend I was there. And then we just moved to Ohio. So, it's really city life. Ohio, New York City. Ohio is better than New York City, obviously.
And so you're from England, and that was the thing that like struck me. Like I was really shocked. I guess I'd never heard you speak before, and I remember you being around for a while. So I was like, oh, I've never actually heard you talk before. And this is when we were briefly speaking during the LA Classic in December. I was like, holy crap, she's British. Like how did I miss that?
I feel like I get that a lot, like especially when I go to a tournament, they'll be like, oh, she's played here for a couple of years, and then I go and talk to them and they're like, wait, you're English, you're not from here. I'm like, yeah.
You got me.
Yeah.
Well, this is gonna sound terrible. Is there a difference between being British and English?
Not really. So
okay.
It's just, if I say British, then people automatically assume England. But when you're in England, you just refer to like, oh, well, I'm from England, because obviously British is part of like the other countries that are involved. So like Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland.
That comprise Great Britain, I guess, or the UK.
Yeah. I think it's just I'm not used to saying myself as being British.
Huh. Yeah, I guess we have it easy because we just be like, oh yeah, we're American, and that's that.
Yeah.
You could say North American, I guess, but that's.
Well, even if you say North American, everybody else in the world's just like, oh, that's America.
Yeah. I'm gonna, just like I told Colin, like, oh yeah, I completely forgot New Jersey's a state. I need to just brush up on my geography, especially because of this podcast, which I guess is a good thing. It's better late than never. But so you said you moved 3 years ago. So you're from you're from England then, your whole life, or?
So I'm a half and half. So I'm a dual citizen.
Okay.
My father's American and my mother's English. And I was actually born in Virginia. So I was born in America. And then when I was a kid, my dad was in the Air Force.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah, he was military.
Yep.
And so we moved in and out of America, between America and England up until I was about 10. And then parents split. And I grew up until like 3 years ago in England. And then I decided to move back to America.
Why did you decide to do that? Like, what was the reason?
So originally it was when I was at university. I studied architecture at university, and we had this really close connection with a company that was in New York City. So every year they would take out interns, like 4 interns from my architecture course, and we'd come out, and it would originally just be for a year because people would just get the student visa to come out. Mm-hmm. And you work for a year and then you can go back to England. So I was like, well, I want to try it. I want to try living in America now that I'm an adult and not a little child going, what's this? What's that?
Right.
And so I did it. And halfway through the year, I was like, well, you know what? I'm really enjoying it here. I've developed a lifestyle that I really like, and I've just decided to stay. And it helps that I'm a citizen, so I didn't have to worry about the visa.
Yeah, it was an easy choice for you.
Yeah. Whenever I meet other English people, they're like, oh, I'm only here for a year. How long are you here for? I'm like, I'm
as long as I want.
So I can stay.
That's cool.
Or I get tons of people are like, are you on a green card? I'm like, no.
That's really cool. So was it Dodgeball that really just wanted to, they kept you?
Oh yeah, obviously.
That was a clear choice. So did you? I can't help myself. Did you play Dodgeball in England? Like how did you get into it?
Yeah, I actually started out in England. I started in university. So I think I actually started playing 2012.
Awesome.
I think when I was in university. It was 2012, and I remember I was walking around a fresher stall. So your freshman year, it's your first week of university. They have this thing called Freshers Week. So you do activities, you see different sports and societies that the university offers, and then you go clubbing throughout the week. But they have this fair there that has all the sports out. And I remember just going through the stands, and I'd originally wanted to join the badminton team. But they told me that you had to try out for it. I was like, well, what if you don't make it? Can you still play? And they said, no, you have to try out, and if you don't make it, you can't play. I was like, oh, I don't want to join a sport, or like, I don't want to be part of this group where it's like, oh, you have to try out. If you're not good enough, then you just can't play anything that you love doing. And then the next stall over was Dodgeball. Nice. I was like, oh, I remember about this, because when I was a kid, I remember at elementary school that they would let's play Dodgeball. I was like, oh, I remember doing this. And then I met people, and they were really, really nice. Some of them are still my closest friends. So.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, I'll sign up, and I'll try it out. And I went, probably wasn't the first night, but I went one night after like a couple of weeks, and then instantly fell in love with it. So when I moved to America, I was like, oh, what's something that I can do to make friends? I was like, well, I made some of my closest friends that's in Dodgeball in England. I was like, I'll see if there's something here. So when some people look at online and they're like, oh, I'll join a social sport to get to know people, I was like, where's Dodgeball? Nice. In New York? I'm like, where's the Dodgeball?
Where's the Dodgeball at? Give me the Dodgeball.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you said you played in elementary school back then. What was do you remember what that was like? Like with like the rule set, or what a game entailed?
Oh, when you're a child, there's no rules.
Just
Let's just go.
throw balls at each other and have no.
There's tons of adults going, you got hit, and you're like, no, I didn't.
Fair enough. And
But
so,
I remember being tall enough to when I'd hold, it was like the big balls, like kick balls, or well, I don't know. When you're small, you think everything's bigger,
right?
But I remember it being the big ball, so probably 8.5, and I remember it being bigger than my head. And so I remember just throwing it, and then like everybody would get hit in the face all the time.
Nice.
But
so
I think that was like second grade.
So you're causing all the headshots, all the negative stuff that people are afraid of nowadays when it comes to kids playing dodgeball.
Yeah. Well, I met up with one of my friends. I went to Vegas in the summer, and I met up with one of them that I went to elementary school with. And he was talking about, oh, do you remember playing dodgeball when we were second grade? And I was like, yeah. It's like, you weren't playing fair. You were kicking people. I was like, what? I was like, I would never kick anybody.
Getting a little heated or improvising.
No, I'm just imagining me playing dodgeball as a kid really aggressively, playing dirty.
Is that something you have to worry about now? Or is that subsided now? You don't have to kick people on the court anymore?
Oh, everyone on my team has to wear shin pads, just in case.
Fair. Nice. So,
no.
So you said you I guess you found the dodgeball club back at university, and you said you weren't great at it at first, but you fell in love with it right away, or did it take some time?
I think, I don't know whether or not I fell in love with it right away, but I remember really enjoying it, and I think it was just the people that I was with. So I was like having a good night, playing dodgeball, and then everybody would go out for drinks and whatnot, because in England you can drink from the age of 18. So you can like go out clubbing and everything, and especially at university they do it a lot more social. So I think it was like every Wednesday, the university hosts this night that's called Ocean Wednesdays, and it's this night where your society or sport gets together, and every Wednesday you have a different theme and you have to dress up in different costumes.
Nice.
And then you do this huge bar crawl. So I'm from Nottingham in England. So you do this bar crawl through Nottingham. And then you end up in this club called Ocean. And it's basically like, if you imagine when people are in Ibiza or one of those party countries where anything goes, there's no rules. That just happens there. So when people are dodgeball at first, they get you to join just to play and then do social stuff. So that's when I joined, just to do social stuff at the beginning. And then I think it was probably a couple of weeks in, there's this guy that was nicknamed Cannon. The team, he was known for having like one of the strongest arms in our club. And then he threw at me a couple times, and I caught him every time. And then everybody was going, whoa, like doing the big cheers and everything. And I was like, what? Why are you cheering? I just caught him. And they're like, you don't understand. He's like the hardest thrower that we have in our club, and you've just caught him a couple of times.
Nice.
I was like, oh, is that good? And they said, yeah, you're actually pretty good. And then as soon as I heard those words, I was like, okay, well, I need to be the best. I need to excel in this.
I need to earn this. I need to expand upon it.
Yeah.
I need to make sure this was not a fluke.
Yeah, there was, I think, especially the year that I joined, there was actually only guys. So I was one of the first girls to ever join Nottingham Trent Dodgeball Club. And there was two other girls. There was another Jenny, and then one of my good friends, Maddie. Well, they're both good friends. I don't want to prioritize one over the other. So they didn't come as often. But in the end, I think after our first year, I ended up on the first team for our club. And I was the first girl to play competitively for the dodgeball team there.
Nice. So making history with them, more or less.
Yeah.
That's cool.
And then after that first year, I got really involved and joined the committee, and I became vice president of the dodgeball club. Wow. And then I was vice president for the next 2 years. And that was a lot of fun, because we'd have stuff where we'd have a couple of nights a week of dodgeball. So in our university, we had a city campus, and then we had a campus that was just outside the city. And we'd host 2 nights that were people would come, anybody could come, and we would teach them how to play dodgeball. So a lot of it was like coaching sessions, and then pick up in open gyms and like little games and drills and stuff to teach people how to play. And then we would have a team practice night. That would be your first team that travels in England, or all across England, would get together, and then we'd practice, and that would be like doing hardcore drills and doing scenario training and stuff like that. So it was a lot of fun.
That's awesome.
But they're definitely very tactical there.
What are the rules like? Are they pretty different from how we play here, or is there like a...
So when I first played, it was pretty similar. When I was first playing, they had, I think it's called dirty blocking, because I think that's the slang here. You know, where if the ball is thrown and you block it, and then you block it into yourself, like you weren't considered out. Right.
No, I've heard that term, and yeah.
Yeah. I think Alfred had mentioned it about NCDA.
Yeah.
And
I remember Paige saying that, and that causes not a lot of confusion, maybe not so much anymore, but people transitioning from that to elite have a hard time forgetting.
Big problem doing that. But it used to be only 3 balls, and then you'd have that. So all the games would last a while. So then every game would be timed, and they didn't have it was basically like not live after you blocked it. So once it hit somebody, then it hit somebody. But now they've changed the rules to where it's 5 balls. And it's kind of similar to WDBF. It's 5 balls. They're timed. So you have 2 halves, and it's 15 minutes, I think, on each half. And then each individual game is timed. So you have 3 minutes per game. And it's just to speed up the process. So at the end of the 3 minutes, however many people are left, that team would win. Or if you knock them out, then that team would win and get some points. And then it's the same as WDBF, where you'd accumulate points by the end of the time. Gotcha. So it's not like best of 3 or whatnot. But I think they just changed to that, I want to say 3 years ago. They still have some 3-ball tournaments, but they're not very exciting because it's very slow.
I'll bet, especially after you're coming down from 6 or 5 back down to 3.
Yeah. They also have this rule with, I know Dom went out and he played in the British Open out there. I think you did the interview with him a couple of weeks ago. Mm-hmm. So he would know too that they have this rule that's called the play ball rule, which is, it's technically like elite, so you do get 10 seconds, but you only get 5 seconds to make a movement to play. So make it look like you're about to do something, like go up to the line. So if you stand there, and if they see after 5 seconds you're still kind of huddling, they'll say play ball, which means that you have to get rid of every ball on your side except for 1, else you're all out. Whoever has the ball is out. And it's this rule that's put in place to stop you from delaying the game because it's all timed. So I know, like in WDBF, they have where you get the 10 seconds clock, but is it where if the opposition team, if they throw, then if any ball's thrown over, then it resets? Is that what it is?
I think so, yeah. Like, it doesn't matter if you have like 4 or 5 or 6, as long as you throw 1 ball and make a play, then it resets the clock.
Yeah. In the, well, it's not just England, it's like a lot of the Europe, so the WDA rules, they have it where you have to, if you're not moving up by after 5 seconds, then you have to get rid of every single ball except for 1. Otherwise, if you have the end of the play ball call, if you've not thrown them and you have 4 people that have 4 balls, all 4 of them are out. And there's no, like, you don't give the balls to the other side, it's just they're all out.
That's really costly.
So it's kind of harsh. Yeah. So they play very quickly. I think that was part of issue when you see some people, like, I don't know how they're going to do with USA Dodgeball is going to go out there, and I don't know how they're going to cope with some of the rules because it's going to be different. But they're all professional players, so I'm sure they'll be able to handle it.
They should be able to
I know that's definitely be able to adapt. But I know that's something that throws a lot of people off, especially when they were doing the US Dodgeball cloth team. That's something that they thought, because you have to throw this within a certain amount of time, that means there's no tactics. It's just throw, throw, throw. And then there's everybody running back and nobody's covering. And I was like, if you actually think about it, you do have a lot more time. You just have to get the balls and at least quickly make your call and then push up together and come back together and you'll be fine.
Gotcha. So it doesn't narrow people down to just running gun. There is a chance for them to strategize and make plays and incorporate tactics, as you said.
Yes. So there's whenever I go back to England, I always go to some of the open gym sessions at the club that I used to play with.
That's cool.
So after university, whilst I was doing university, I got picked up to play to represent Nottingham in the women's team. So whenever I go back to visit, I always come to that training session and play with them, and we play the rules there, and they're so uniform. Like, I don't know if you've been able to watch any of the footage from any of the WDA events or seen any of the England players play.
I don't know. I think and this is where I'm still kind of, I don't say confused, but just maybe ignorant for lack of better words, but I see the footage I have seen incorporates a cloth ball. And so I don't know if that's WDA.
Yes.
Okay.
Probably. But they just play really fluidly. Like it's a lot of it kind of looks like a conductor where it's like one side goes and then another side goes, and it's quite elegant how they play. But it's a lot of stuff. So the other team will throw and then they'll get their balls together, and it's usually the person on the left that would call, and they'd go, 32, which means that you throw at the third person and number 2 would hold. And so that's how you determine who's that one person that's keeping their ball. And then you'd run up, throw, and then run back, and the other team would counter, and it's just like a fluid movement. But when I've seen, especially in New York City, they opened up a cloth ball open gym there. And I think one night we tried to do a similar rule to get ready for the WDA event that was coming there. And everybody couldn't understand it. And it was just like, go, go, go.
That's funny.
But it's just like elite, but more just quicker to it. You don't have that patience of like getting together and making sure that you're huddling and then going up, stopping at the line, faking, and then throwing. It's like a fluid movement. So you'd get together and then, or how the England players play it, they'll get together, make the call, and then they'll run up instantly and kind of do the throw and then come back. So there's not a lot of pauses in between play games and play styles or whatnot.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's kind of funny because it just reminds me of just for people that aren't familiar with like the no blocking rule, like how hard it is to forget how to do that. So just watching or just visualizing people that are so used to playing elite kind of transition into this style of play, and just mentally seeing them like mess it up and just go all crazy is kind of funny to picture.
Yeah, that's one thing that I always think is funny, that you'll have a player that's elite, will be top, has played elite for years. They know all the rules like the back of their hand. So if anything happens like on the court, they'll be able to say, no, this scenario, you're out because of this, this, and this. And then when I've seen some of these elite players that go then to try and play the cloth style, and then next thing you know, like, oh, they're dropping a ball or they're getting hit, and then the ball bounces off and someone else catches it. But how they play in England, you're out if it hits you and somebody else catches it. You're still out, but the catch counts.
Right.
And then people are like, what? Like, I don't understand.
They're just
lost. Like, no. So it's funny to see some of like, not necessarily like the best players, but the players that know Elite and have played Elite for years, like try this out. And then they're like, I don't understand the rules.
Their whole world's falling apart. Like, I don't understand what's happening.
Yeah. Or especially I think the funniest thing I've seen is when everybody that throws 8.5 or 8.5 or no sting, and they can really grip the balls, and then they go to hold the cloth ball.
Yeah.
And it's like, there's no give in it. You can't just like squeeze it. You can't do like the Ketchum clamp. Or Billy Schmidt does it too, where they clamp down on the balls. Like, you have to either trust that you have big enough hands or sweaty hands, because it's the cloth fabric. If you've got sweaty hands, it's like glue.
Yeah, good luck.
Yeah. Or one thing I do is, luckily I'm gifted with big hands, but because it's kind of like a volleyball, so it has different seams on it, you can actually hold the ball using the seams. So like, you have a seam that's by your thumb, and then a seam that's by your index finger, and then your ring finger and your pinky, and that's how you can kind of hold on to it.
Huh. So that way you don't have to like cup it. You can actually have some grip there.
Yeah, there's some people I know that they said, they just push it because they can't hold it. Whenever I hear that, I'm like, oh no. Like, no,
there's a better way.
Holding it right. Yeah, because there's I remember, so in England when we had the 3 balls, it was actually an 8-inch cloth ball, so it's even bigger. So when we played the women's league, we'd have this 8-inch ball, and all the girls would be throwing sidearm because they wouldn't be able to hold the ball. And I think I was like one of the only girls in my region's league that could actually throw the ball overhand because I had long enough fingers. So I remember the girls were coming up to me and they're like, how can you throw it? You can throw it hard. I was like, it's just because I got big hands that I can do it. And then because the women were struggling, and like everyone, well, I don't want to say struggling, but because everybody had to throw sidearm because of it, they made a rule that was, they introduced the balls that now are in the WGA and they use everywhere, which is the 7-inch ball. And it was like, women use this, the men's have to use 8-inch. So it's kind of like no sting in the 8.5 kind of variation. So now the women's division is no sting and opens 8.5. And gotcha. I remember as soon as we played with that, everybody was changing the style of throws, getting better. And then we would have practices, like team practices, and we'd have the women's on one side playing with that ball, the 7-inch ball. And then on the men's, they play with the 8-inch ball. And you could just see all the guys were like, we want to play with the smaller ball.
Like, we hate this thing.
Yeah, we're like, we don't like it. Yours is so good. And then it was like the last year that I was playing there, they were still having where it's separate. And then when I went back to visit, they said, oh, they've just let the guys have all the 7-inch balls now. No, this is regular now. They all get to play. And they're like, it's so much better.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of that ball at all.
It's one of those where it's a lot of fun. So I'm a true believer in, I like every ball type. And I'm a true believer, like, if you want to be a best dodgeball player, you have to be great in every ball type.
Right.
So cloth is definitely one of those that I think I enjoy it more because it's more challenging. So like I said, you could have the catch and throw in 8.5 and no sting or foam, but then he'd have to throw completely differently in cloth. And it's kind of, I think there's like a kind of beauty to it that you almost have to change your game and adapt to play it well. But I know there's a lot of hatred of cloth in the States.
Yeah, there are. And it's, but it's like you said, there's, if you want to be the best dodgeball player out there, the best you can be, you have to be able to adapt. You have to be versatile. So
that's like when you see like Nate, Vince, Ketchum, like Mike McGee, every ball type that I've seen them play in, they've been the top of the game. Like you look at the Tribune lists that they release out, all of them are at the top of the list for almost every single ball type. And it's like, well, it's because they're good enough players that if they're the best, then they're the top of the list because they know how to adapt the game to each different ball type.
Yep.
And that's something I'm like, oh, I need to do this. I want to be the best.
I was going to ask, actually, I'm going to save that question because I do want to get to that one about being the best in that competition. But going back to just the England scene in general, when you said you played in these clubs, so you said it was cloth most of the time or the whole time that you played?
Yeah, it was cloth the whole time. I think now there might be introducing foam.
Okay.
But I think that's to do more with that Atlantic Cup that I think USA's Dodgeball's going out for in April.
Right.
I was talking to one of my friends and they said that they're trying to play with some of the foam balls now because don't take my word for it, but if England does try to do the WDBF, then I'm knowing what they're like and practicing, especially like the England team and all the other teams, they'll be trying to get on the foam dodgeball now. Like we have to learn. But
prepare.
The entire time I was there, it was cloth. So when I moved to America, I didn't think that they would have cloth, but I was like, whoa, this is very different.
And obviously, oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, because when I first moved to New York, we had an open gym that was no sting, but when I was first playing 8.5, I was very different.
Gotcha.
Trying to throw that in comparison.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what was that like transitioning from cloth and then the European style or WDBF style to I don't want to say American, but what they were playing in New York, like ball wise, strategy wise, like what was like adapting to that?
So I think at first, my first couple of weeks when I was playing just in the open gyms, that was in New York City. So I joined Sandlot, and the first night I went there, it was no sting balls. So it was the same size as the cloth ball. So I was like, oh, okay, these are smaller. I can deal with this. And when I was throwing, I was instantly throwing really high. And it was going over people's heads. And I was like, oh, God, this is really bad. That I can't throw the ball. I've emailed this guy saying, I played dodgeball in England and I want to play it in America. I turn up going, oh, sorry. I just hit the basketball net, sorry.
Gotta bring it down a little bit.
Bring it down. But it was, at first, it hurt my shoulder a bit because, especially with 8.5, when I was first throwing it, it's a lot heavier. So for the first, I'd say probably a couple of weeks, my shoulder was hurting a lot. And then I kind of changed up my throw a bit more. So when I talked to some of my friends, there's some pictures that I have somewhere on my Facebook account of when I was playing in Sandlot. And they said it looks like a chicken leg, like a chicken wing when I throw. Just because they're like, the ball's so heavy, so it's the only way I could throw it overhand. But I think I was able to adapt quite quickly. I think the hardest thing to transition from is if you're used to rubber or cloth and then you try and play foam, because that thing doesn't weigh anything.
Yeah, it's really hard adapting to that. Yeah.
So that's something where it's either you're throwing it off into the sky or you're spiking it down instantly into the ground.
Yep.
Which when I haven't played foam in a while, and then you turn up to the LA Classic and then it's like the first throw, it's down at the ground. You're like, I'm sorry, guys.
Yep. You're like, oh, well, that sucks.
Like, oh, whoopsies.
Yep. I've definitely I've had plenty of those. Just you're so excited to finally play. You maybe skipped or dodged a few foam throws at you, and you finally get a chance to fire back, and it just goes 4 feet into the ground. You're like, well dang it.
Well, the worst thing is when you haven't seen people in so long, and you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to show them what I've become now, and you're like, I've become awful. Awful. It went straight to the ground.
What have I become?
Yeah. I was like, my team was like, we had high hopes for you, and you're like, I'm sorry, I should just go home now.
Yeah, I'll just go home now. I'm done. Just leave the court and drive off.
And then you just play off like, oh, my shoulder hurt when I threw that. and then that's why it hit the ground.
Yeah, that's a good way out. It's like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
nope, shoulder's done, gotta go. Sorry guys, out.
Or you do the, oh, my hands are wet. It just slipped right out of my hand.
Yeah, it's way better than
Every,
just like staring at the ground all dumb, like oh, I don't know what
yeah.
happened. I'll
With me,
use
I'm
that.
just like, I just go, sorry.
Yep.
Sorry. Or if I throw it too high, I always end up going, sorry, I didn't mean to do that.
Yeah,
Like,
I'll have to look out for that. If I ever get to see you on the court before nationals, I'll just have to spy that and be like, I wonder if she's gonna throw it like 80 feet in the air.
yeah, you're like, whoops.
It's like, ha, I know what that's like. I know
Yeah.
what she's talking about.
But going back to what you said before, when I was like starting to transition, so when I was in England, I was primarily a thrower, and I didn't really catch that much because right when I was playing, knee pads weren't really a thing in England. Like there was one team that would wear knee pads, and they were really good, and they would always drop down for catches. And I remember a girl saying on my team, like, it's ridiculous that they have knee pads. Knee pads are a catching aid. And I was like, what? She's like, they shouldn't allow knee pads because it's a catching aid. And it's like, well, surely they're doing it for protection. And then when I went to Sandlot, and when it was 8.5, I was like, oh, I can't throw as much. I'll concentrate on trying to catch it. And it was a lot easier to catch an 8.5 ball because obviously it's a bigger object. And then because there's give in the ball, so when it hits you, it kind of squidges in. So you have a longer amount of time to react to it.
Right.
So I started catching a lot. And then because of the weight of the ball, I would instantly drop to my knees after. And then I was getting so many holes in my leggings, and I would have like a graze that every week would just like open up again. Disgusting. And then my friend's like, you should get knee pads. And I was like, okay, like I'll see how it is. And then I put knee pads on. I was like, why did we not wear knee pads the entire time that I was learning how to play dodgeball? I was like, this has changed my game so much.
It's funny they call it a catch aid, like it's cheating, or like you're wearing gloves or something, or
yeah,
like the sticky receivers gloves.
Yeah, I remember doing a tournament in England. I think when I was in my second year of university, so it was like 2013. And one of our guys, he would always wear a hoodie, so like a sweatshirt. I don't know if you guys call it hoodies.
Mm-hmm. Yep, call them hoodies.
I've always been told off for saying the wrong thing, so I'm like, I don't know if I'm saying the right thing, the wrong thing. But he was wearing a hoodie, and all these teams were like, you can't wear that, it's a catching aid. And you're like, what? And you're like, you can't wear that, it's a catching aid. And so they'd force him to take off his hoodie, and he wasn't wearing a top on underneath. And then so he'd have to borrow someone else's top because all these teams are like, oh, you can't have that. And I think in WDA, they're saying like you can't wear tape on your hands unless it's for an injury. And it has to kind of like, if you have more than just like a couple of fingers taped up, then teams will go, oh, she's got tape on her hand. That's like an aid. And then you'll like have to go to the ref and you like have to explain why you've got tape on your fingers and whatnot. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really strict. I can see the hoodie though, but in like a tournament environment, not if it's just for fun or for like open gym.
Yeah, if it's open gym, it's fine. Like they wouldn't be bothered about it. But especially, I think it was in tournaments. Granted, it was some of the first couple of years that dodgeball had been kind of more official in England. That then those teams that were taking it. Obviously, you want to take it seriously, but there's a different level when you're trying to get this guy to basically go shirtless just to play because he's had this hoodie, or when people are complaining about other people wearing knee pads.
Yeah, the knee pads are just. I mean,
knee pads are essential now.
Yeah, you just want to be able to walk when you're 50 or 60 years old. You're not trying to.
Yeah, there's so many people I know that are saying like, oh, I wish that I'd worn knee pads earlier. Or I know a couple of people that played. Am I saying it right? NCDA. Is that how you say it? The college one?
Yeah, NCDA.
NCDA. So Alfred, my man friend, he played NCDA, and he was saying like, oh, hardly anybody wore knee pads, and if he did, he only wore one, and it had like just a gel cushioning. And I was like, oh, it's crazy to think that you played all these years like playing pinch dodgeball, and you don't wear any knee pads, and you just have this one little sleeve to protect you, and you're dropping to your knees all the time. And now just thinking about it, like I think my knees are aching right now talking about not wearing knee pads.
Yeah, same here. I'm just remembering the first time the last time I dropped on a hardwood floor without a knee pad, and I just felt that sickening, painful feeling. Is like, never again will I experience this pain.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's rough. Yeah, people are crazy. If you're not protecting your knees with something, you better be careful.
Yeah.
It's gonna come back and haunt you later.
Oh, definitely. I feel that with my thumbs sometimes. I've had a really bad habit of like tweaking my thumbs a lot. So I definitely make sure to tape them up. But every now and then when it gets cold outside, I can always feel my thumbs.
Oh, no.
I'm like, no, I'm going to become old. And I'll be like, I can't make the number 5 because my fingers are closed.
Are you going to be able to predict like when it's going to snow? It's like, oh, my joints are swelling up. It's going to rain.
There's a 90% chance it's already raining.
Yeah, I fear for like what our hands are going to look like, when we're 67 years old, just gonna be like gnarled and banged up and just arthritic to no end.
My hand will constantly be holding the clamp position.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, sorry, I have claws now.
Or we'll get lucky and, medicine and biotechnology we'll just have replacements and we'll be fine. But otherwise it's gonna be pretty bad.
It's robotic hands.
Yep. Cybernetic hands. Sign me up. So what's it like when you go back to your club? Like you've come here, you've competed a little bit. When you go back, is it hard to transition? Like, do you do it often enough to compare the two? Like, what's that like?
So because of recently, I've only been able to actually go back like once a year. So it's a bit of a shame, but whenever I do go back, it's actually quite easy to transition. But I think it's just because now I'm kind of used to playing with different balls a lot. And we have cloth balls here, so we throw them around sometimes, like just for a bit of fun, like in our living room. Because when we moved out of New York, we got a place in Ohio, we're like, oh, we have space in our apartment. We don't just have like 300 square feet. So we're like, we can throw dodgeball in our living room.
I like how that's the first thought when it comes to like, oh, we've got space, we can play dodgeball here instead of.
Yeah, I think we have like a foam dodgeball that's sat in our living room constantly, just in case we're like, oh, well, if we get bored, we can just throw it around.
Nice.
But whenever I go back, I think it's harder to transition to the rule set, I think, than necessarily just playing. So like throwing up or because the team that I play with, when we go and practice, they have like a specific call system. So they'll say something. I'm like, okay, what does this mean? I'm like, wait a second, what's this? They'll say like 3 numbers and a letter. I'm like, wait, where's the letter go? Or I throw and they're like, you're throwing at the wrong place. And I was like, well, what does A mean? And they're like, A means the head. You're like, okay, I'll get it. And then they'll say like C3PO. I'm like, wait, hold on a second. What are these letters? What does this mean now? I'm like, didn't you know this means the special play when you go up and do this? I'm like, no, I did not know. But I feel like playing in America has helped my game a lot more. So whenever I go back, they're like, you play better and better. And because I play a different style, it kind of puts me at an advantage because they're not expecting how I play. So it's nice. It's a nice feeling going back. Nice.
I was kind of hoping you're going to say that, like you get a chance to show off your new skill set or like some of the new, I don't know, I'm like nerd out, but like you get to level up a little bit and then show off.
It's like some of my friends, so like I have some of my friends now wear knee pads, but because I wear knee pads now, like especially with cloth balls, like I drop catch for a lot of stuff, or definitely. So what's that UDC team that was Loft? Was it layout for that?
Mm-hmm.
So I definitely lay out for the balls. Now going back and they're like, Jenny, you can catch. I'm like, yes, I can.
Because my knees are safe. I'm not going to
like,
destroy myself.
And they're like, oh, like you're more agile. Because a lot of England, like a lot of the English teams, not necessarily all of them wear knee pads, but they dodge laterally. So they're more like side to side, a little bit of up and down, but not that much. But so like going there and playing and having them throw at my head, and it may sound really simple, but having them throw towards my head and being able to like drop or completely lay down flat in a dodge, or go up and then pump faking was a thing that really threw them off, because in England they don't really pump fake that much because it's hard to do it with the cloth ball because you can't grip it very well. So if you're trying to do like a full pump fake, the ball might slip out. So when I was, because I got my big hands, and I was like, I need to practice pump faking before we go. And I was doing that. It was like throwing a lot of people off. So like, I don't know what to do.
That's kind of cool. Like something they're just not used to, and you get to do that to them and shake up their
so like,
whole focus.
It's like hard because it's hard to predict what you're doing. But I think that's just like the American style of how you play now. Like pump faking is a huge part of
absolutely.
Especially in, every dodgeball that's here. I was just going to say elite, but everywhere. And so that's something that's so key. So when you go to England, you don't see it as much. Everybody's like, how do I respond? Oh no,
what is happening right now? They can't do that. I'm not
like,
used
I'm
to this.
scared. They're not throwing at me, are they? No, they're not. Oh god.
That's funny because like, you know, we're so conditioned to being pump faked. Yeah, it startles you a little bit, but then you can kind of tell, okay, this guy's not going to throw. There's a really good chance it's the guys on the left because bird and ball's over there. But to experience that for the first time, just like, hey, what's going on here?
You're like, what? Wait, you just looked like you're trying to throw the ball, but you didn't throw the ball. So then I didn't throw, and you're like, wait a second.
What is happening here?
Yeah,
it's gonna be fun to
That's
see.
always the funnest thing. It kind of looks like, so you know when you have like a VHS tape and you've paused it and it's like jigging up and down.
With the.
I forgot, where you paused it and then it's got like the grainy lines, and then because it's like jigging back and forth from the same clip, it kind of looks like that when they're like, oh wait, where do I go? Oh what? Oh no, what do I do? Oh, they're
like glitching out. You have to like adjust the tracking, or I think that's what it used to be to fix the picture.
That's probably not a great way of explaining it.
Oh, it's a perfect way. I want to know if who's gonna be like, what's a VHS? Like, I hate you.
I have a younger sister and she's like that. She's like, what's this? Or I know a couple of years ago, everybody was saying the term lit. Like, that's lit. I can't say it I can't say it cool, apparently. But
don't even stress it.
Yeah, she's 10 years younger than me. And I was like, oh, that's so lit. And she goes, Jenny, that's so 2016. I can't believe you just said that to me right now.
Oh, excuse you.
God. I'm like, oh, God. She's like, what's dial-up? And I was like, oh, my heart is broken.
Oh, geez. Oh, that hurts me. Ow.
No.
Oh, I told you I was going to do this, and now I have to. This perfect opportunity. You said, if you don't mind my pulling up in the messages when it comes to saying awkward things. Totally throwing you under the bus here. I'm getting so excited to talk about Dodgeball. I feel like a puppy who sees a new chew toy. To be honest, I don't know if that's the best metaphor for it.
Well, I was like, oh, you know when like a puppy gets really excited, and then I was like, what does they get excited for in chew toy? And I was like, that's really that's a really aggressive way of explaining how I'm excited to talk about Dodgeball.
It's definitely it's new for me. I haven't heard it described like that before, but
yeah, I always say that I have one of these things that, they have that drunk test, and it's like, oh, I swear to drunk,
I'm not God. Yep.
And I'm like, oh, that happens to me daily. I feel like my head gets so excited to say some words that I'll like put the word in halfway through the sentence. So like, oh, today swimming I'm going. I'm like, oh no, wait.
Yeah, no, I know the feeling. God knows there's so many probably weird sound bites people can extract from these episodes. I'm like, what did Steve just say? That none of that made any sense, but it made sense to me.
What?
Yeah, and I just roll with it. I'm like, well, oh well.
Yeah, and that's what I get a lot. I'll say something and I'll be like, wait a second, did I just say what I think I said? And they go, yes, but I know you so well, I know what you meant.
I
I was
know
like,
exactly.
okay, thank you.
Like, yeah,
Thank you for being a good friend and not teasing.
like I'm forgiven. I'm okay.
You're like, woo. Or I just go, I'm from England, I'm not from here. I don't know what these phrases are you guys say.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have that excuse. Dang.
I do that whenever somebody asks me, they're like, oh, do you know where this street is? And they're like, oh, can you help me to get here? I'm like, yeah, sure, what it is. And they'll say the street. And then I lived in New York for 3 years and I'll still go, oh, sorry, I'm just a tourist on holiday. I don't know where that is.
That's awesome. I mean, it's very convincing, and you still have the accent, so no one's going to question that.
I'll just put it on. I just put it on a little bit more, and I'm like, oh, so sorry.
That's funny. Yeah, I just say I don't know. I'm dumb. Just, what do you want from me? But
just walk away. You just don't say anything, and then just walk away.
Yeah, just smile, laugh, and nervously run away.
Yeah.
But I guess I can go back to this now, because I did want to just get more of your the English background. But I did want to ask, because you said it earlier too, and it kind of perked my ears up. You said that you show up, you catch a few balls from Cannon, and everyone's flipping out because like it's really good, and you're like, well, now I have to be the best. Like, what is it about you that determines that? Like, why do you have to be the best?
I think it was. Oh, that's a hard question.
Excellent.
You're like, oh no. I think just ever since I was a kid, when you have to move a lot because of the military, you have to like make new friends and be new environment, and it's always like, oh, you always start out new at some place. So you have people that are known for being like the best singer or the best dancer or the best at maths or whatever. And so I'd always try and be like, oh, when I come in, I don't want to feel like the newbie. So I always want to try and excel. So I don't feel like, oh, she's new, she doesn't know anything. So I think that was one thing I've always kind of been throughout my childhood, like, oh, I need to do really well in school, like make a good impression or whatnot. So when it came to dodgeball and I was like, oh, you're good at this. And I was like, oh, I'm good at this. I really want to make this something that I want to be a part of, like excel well. Like I want to be the first at this or something. Because I know, especially at my school, I'd play some sports, but it was like you couldn't progress any more than what you just had, or
Right.
Our school didn't offer things like here they have like softball leagues. But I went to an all-girls high school, and it was just like, oh, a game. It's called Rounders, which I call the gentleman's version of baseball.
Rounders?
Which is you have like it's
Huh.
so it's like baseball, except for your bat is half the size, and it's like the same size ball, and it's like all set up with the bases. But when you stand to bat, you can only bat with one hand. And you kind of like have to face front arm. So if you just imagine like one of the most English ways of ever playing baseball, where you see these people like, oh, cheerio, and they like hit this ball and it goes out into the field, and then you're like running ever so slightly. I just call it like gentleman's baseball.
It's a YouTube that and see, because
it's
for some reason I think I have a really good picture of what you're talking about, but I'd have to see it.
Yeah, it's if you were like, oh, if like cricket, if you were to take something like that or take something American that's like hardcore sport, and I call like, oh, putting a cup of tea on it, so you're making it like a posh version. That's what it would be. But I went to an all-girls high school, so in our area we only had the boys' school, and then we had a comprehension school, so it's like a mixed school. But we could never really compete with any of the schools because we're the only girls' school in our area. So all of our sports would just be in our PE class. So when I went to university and I was like, oh, when I was at school, I did badminton. I'll try this out. And then when they said that, oh, if you don't make it, you don't play. So that's why when I joined dodgeball, and as soon as I got good in it, I was like, right, I want to be good because I want to have my chance to compete. I want to fit in. and I want people to be impressed with my skills.
Nice. That's pretty good motivation. That's new. For me anyway. Like I never thought about that. You're the kid that's constantly moving around, and you want to get rid of that stigma of being the new kid, and you want to kind of you want something attached to you that isn't, oh, she's just not from here, or you're outcast, for lack of better words.
Yeah, because I remember it was like my first couple of years of school. I had like a tiny bit of an American accent, and I was always like, oh, well, she's the American girl. She's the American girl. And I was like, I don't want to just be the American girl. I want to be something else.
Do you ever get the reverse here? Like, oh, you're just not just but you're like the English girl, or?
Sometimes I think outside of Dodgeball, I get it a lot where, especially if I interact with people, that's the first thing that comes up. But in Dodgeball, I'll get people that would be like, oh, like, you're a good player, or like, I had fun playing against you. And I'll talk and they go, oh, wow.
Oh, wow.
They're like, oh. They're like, oh, where are you from? Or they're like, oh, where are you from? Are you from this area? And I'll say, oh, I'm from England originally. And they're like, good, because I was going to say Australia. I was like, oh. But I think that's one thing that I liked about Dodgeball, was, especially when you're playing competitively, it's like you meet people from who you're facing up against and like how they play. And then afterwards you do the social interaction, and so you're like, oh, how they play off the court, and you're like, oh, she's a great catcher. So you think of it in that sense of like a player, rather than just, oh, she's that English girl or whatnot.
Yeah.
I think that's something that, especially moving to America and like playing Dodgeball and then like moving around a couple times, all of my friends that I've kind of kept from moving have been through Dodgeball.
Nice.
And I think that's great because the community is so large, and like especially in America, it's so spread out. I think it's like 3,000 miles wide or something, and that you can still talk to everybody in this like #Dodgeball family, or like my team, they're like GOAT are all in New York City, and a lot of the Royale girls are in Boston, and I still get to talk to them a lot. And like as soon as we see each other in a tournament, it doesn't look like we've been gone for that long. And I just like that sense of you can be away and you can move away, but when you come together for these Dodgeball tournaments, it's like you've never left and you've got your closest friends that you see.
Yeah, it's like you pick up right where you left off.
Yeah. It's like when I went to the LA Classic, there was a couple of people that I hadn't actually seen in probably like a year and a half, and there wasn't like any awkwardness. It was like, oh, like it's so great to see you and hanging out, and it was nice going to LA because it'd been a while because I had an injury last year, so it meant that I couldn't go to nationals, and so it's nice to like be able to see like people from the West Coast and people like girls from the North, whatnot. Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love the community.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to hear that it's kind of echoed in Europe as well, and that those like the similar traits of the community of Dodgeball, the better ones, right? I mean, God knows there's a lot of banter on the threads these days.
A lot of banter.
Yeah, but and I keep saying this, like I think every episode I've said at least once or twice, but like I love the community as a whole, and the good is like you said, we can not see each other for months and then go play in a tournament and we're best friends again. Never, like nothing ever changed, and you just know you have friends everywhere because of it. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of, like, I guess getting more involved in the community and talking more about your competitiveness, is that what drew you into Elite Dodgeball? So you start playing, I think you said Sandlot. When abouts did you join like the Elite circuit or league or tournaments? So like, when did you get involved in Elite based tournaments, and why?
So I joined Elite, I think it's 2016. I moved in 2015. And that was like in October time was when I started. So it was that 2016 season.
So you wasted no time then. You just dove right in, kind of.
Yeah, I was like, I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Well,
that's awesome.
Well, when I first moved, I didn't even know that there was like a competitive league. because like I talked to some people and was like, oh, like I played in England and we played in leagues and stuff, and like everything's through the club that you're in, and then you play competitively. Because it was his direct league, there was a lot of people that were like, oh, I haven't heard anything. And then one of my friends, Sal, I can't pronounce his last name. I think it's like Alazio. He was on Power Lords before, and then he played with Goat for a little bit, and he retired a couple of years ago. But he was like, oh, can you come to this special training session? Like, it's invite only. There's this thing called Elite that we play competitively. Like, do you want to come and check it out? So I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, I'll come. I love playing like against some better quality players or like playing more competitively. And then when I turned up, it was like, oh, there was teams there. So there was Arkham, because that was the first year that Arkham had formed. And then there was Gotham and Power Lords. And so I started playing with the Power Lords team. And after the first session, they were like, we want you to play in our co-ed team.
Nice.
And so I was like, oh, great. Yeah, I'll play. And then what ended up happening was that I ended up having to play open with Power Lords. So on that team, it was Justin Bosch. I'm sorry, Justin, if I said your name wrong. And then Dre. They're both on Go.
Yep.
So I actually first started off playing with them on Power Lords. And that's what they took me to my first Elite tournament. And that was, I forgot which one that was. But that was in the 2016 season. So I did all the rounds playing open and co-ed with them. And I forgot what the other part of your question was.
Oh, it was just why did you get involved? But I mean, it sounds like I think you pretty much covered that, just the competitive nature, and you kind of just got drawn into it. And
yeah, well, when I realized that there was kind of like a league, I was like, oh, great, this is something that I used to do in England. This is something that I want to do, like be competitive and like play and meet people at like the highest levels. So as soon as they said, do you mind like traveling with us and playing with us? I was like, yep, sign me up. I'm ready.
It's like, I am good to go. Let's do this. That's awesome.
Yeah. But I played with Power Lords my first year. And then when it came to nationals, that was the year when it was in New Orleans. And Power Lords, they didn't want to go because they didn't qualify in the top four. And I think they were like, oh, we don't want to travel. So I ended up playing with Arkham, and I came out with them in New Orleans, and I was like, oh, I'll sit open because they had enough guys. And then I played co-ed with them. And when I was there, I was like, what? There's a women's division?
Nice.
I was like, this is great. I was like, oh, I wish I'd known about this. And then I was like, oh, something like I could have posted like a free agent, but I had no idea that there was a women's division. And I was like, oh, this is brilliant. Like, there was nothing at the East rounds, but there was a couple of the East girls had put together a team. I think they were called like 007, which was what Amanda and Natalie and Kate Kerins and Emily Hotz, they had one team there. And then I think Sam Girardi was on a mixed team. I forgot what team they were on, but I think it was one of not the last days, it was the playoffs. They said that they had a girl that was injured, and one of the girls just came up to me and she's like, I recognize you from the East rounds. Can you come and play? So I was like, oh, yeah, sure. Like, I'll help you play in the playoffs. And I think we got like knocked out straight away. And then afterwards, Amanda, I know she goes by like Amanda Ashley on Facebook.
Yeah, it's so confusing, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's because she's like, she's a teacher, so I think she changes her name, so some of the students can't find her on Facebook. But she came up to me and she was like, look, well, Megan Fricker actually came up to me. They both did, and they were like, look, we like really like you. Would you be interested in playing with us at nationals next year? And I was like, oh, that's the whole year away. And I was like, yes, I'll play. I want to play women's.
Nice.
And then so after New Orleans, the 2016, it was the 2017 season. and I played with Arkham, both in open and co-ed, because the East region didn't have a women's division yet. So I was still playing open with them. I think by the time it was our round 3 was the first time that they had like a women's sort of tournament. So they ran their first 4v4 tournament at round 3, and that's I think the Davis women won that one. But they still wanted me to be on the team because it was 4v4. I said, look, you guys have been playing together for years. I'm going to play on a different team. And I remember we played one of the round robin games against them. And I was playing with some girls it was actually the Space Cadet girls that play with them in co-ed, play with Space Cadets in co-ed. And I was playing with them, and they'd got knocked out, and it was me by myself. And I had managed to pick off every player on Davis. And then it was me and Amanda left, and she had run up, and I was going in for the counter, and then she slipped and hurt her knee. I think she'd been having some knee problems. And I was like, oh no. And I didn't smash her. I was like, oh no, I'll be good. Like, I'll make sure that you're okay. And then somebody subbed in, and then I ended up winning the game. And then they came up to me afterwards, and they're like, look, you're still playing with us in nationals, aren't you? Like, we want you on our team. And I was like, yes. So that year, when we then did nationals again, was the Boston, when it was in Boston, and we competed in the women's division. So it's my first official women's division. And I played with the Davis girls.
Okay.
And then since then, I've been playing with them in the women's. So we were KO last year. And then we had dropped a couple of players. So now we joined with Anarchy, some of the girls from Anarchy. So then this year we're now Royale, Dodgeball.
Gotcha. Yeah, I was going to ask why the team name change and some of the rosters, but sounds like you answered that already, which is pretty cool. Why Royale? And just because it sounds cool, or was there like a story behind that, or? So
some of it was because we were originally thinking about possibly staying KO because there was a lot of players. I think there was still 5 of us in total. And then we were picking up 3 of the girls from Anarchy, but we said, we wanted something fresh. We wanted a new start because especially last season, we had so many injuries. And then because of all the injuries and like some people couldn't make tournaments, we ended up not being able to go to nationals. So we're like, we want a new name for ourselves. We want to completely rebrand ourselves. And then we were thinking up some names, and somebody had said something, and I was like, how about Royale? Because I was like, something like, I don't want to be a team that's like smash face or destruction or something that's
super aggressive, I guess. Or
yeah, super aggressive. And so I was like, that's why. So when they chose KO last year, and they're like, Jenny, can you do the logo for it? I was like, sure. And I was like, I don't want to do like knockout, like punching face, or like someone being knocked out. I was like, I'm going to do like knockout beauty, or like like something that's like nice about it. So when I came up with Royale, I was like, I like the idea of like royalty, or because we always make the joke that like, all the girls are queens, and
nice.
Like you royalty on the court. So I was like, I'll do like a French version. I was like, how about Royale? And it was probably the easiest picking name of the team because they're like, what name should we do? And I threw in Royale, and everyone went, I love it. Let's go with it.
Oh, jeez.
So like, great. I was like, this is the easiest that I've ever had.
It's never that easy.
Yeah. And then I was like, do you mind if I like come up with a logo or something? And they're like, yeah, sure. So I was like, did a logo, like print it. I was like, what do you think? And they're like, we love it. Let's go with it. I was like, this is amazing, guys.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So when we came up with a jersey design, I was like, take a crack. And they're like, Jenny, we're going to like it. You just go with it. So I did it, and they're like, we like it. Let's go with it. You're like, I know this team's going to be great because everything was so easy.
Yeah, I can just hear my own thoughts of just like, God, I hate trying to work on a design or colors or team name or just of all the teams I've been on, it's never easy. just like, oh yeah, we'll run with the first ideas. We're good to go. Like, oh, that must be nice.
Yeah, that's. I always have that when you come up with the name. A name? Oh God, just said that wrong. Come up with names for stuff, and you always make a list of like 20 names,
Yep.
and then everybody's like, I really don't like any of these. And then somebody comes up with another list of 20 names, and then you have like another list of 20 names, and then you're like, well, let's pick the top ones, and it'll be 3 weeks later, and nobody's picked.
Yeah.
And then you end up picking a name that wasn't on any of the lists. And then you always have one person sad.
Yeah.
So when I said that and everybody was like, yep, we'll do it. I was like, okay, I'm going to seize this opportunity and do everything really quickly.
Don't question it. Just run with it.
Changes their mind.
Yeah, exactly.
We have our jerseys now. We can't change it.
That's awesome. Yeah. You just have to, if you get buy-in, just run with it. Don't even give people a chance to second guess anything. And
you're like,
awesome. Go! Just Raj!
They're trapped.
What, since we're on the topic of jerseys and team names and whatnot, what number are you, and is there any reason for said number?
So I'm number 8.
Oh, good choice.
I think you had said you're number 8 in one of your podcasts or something too.
Yep. Always.
Yeah, it's the best number. So my birthday falls on the 8th. So the LA Classic was actually my birthday.
Oh, nice. Happy belated birthday, because I talked to you then. I don't think I said it, but now I have to. Months later. I was
very disappointed that you didn't know.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Yeah.
How rude of me.
But, yeah, so my birthday's fallen on it. And then since I was a kid, I've always had been like, oh, it's number 8. It's my birthday, like number 8. And I would even do stuff where I was like, oh, in the cinema, I have to sit in the 8th row, in the 8th seat.
That's awesome.
So even now, like, we'll Alfred and I will go to dinner, and then or like we'll go to watch a movie, or we'll go to watch something, and if there's something with the number 8 in it, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I have to sit here. You can't sit here. And he's like, oh, there's 2 seats together here. And I was like, oh, but there's this one that's like number 8 here, and you could sit behind me. And he's like, no. You can't do that.
I'm sorry, you can't sit here. This is clearly for me.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna end up quoting a lot of Mean Girls.
Yeah, it's such a great number.
Yeah.
Few people understand, and the ones that do, they're just right. So that's awesome.
Yeah. I also like that it's kind of like the infinity symbol.
I was just going to say that you flip it on its side and it's infinity, and as if there's not enough reasons to love it. Yeah.
So I was like, oh, there's so many things. And I know, especially in like Asian cultures, like number 8 is prosperity or something. So I was like, see, there's no other number. 7's not a lucky number. It's number 8.
7's just the distraction from the real true number.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Well, I can't pass up this question. It's funny because I always ask, what are your top 3 balls? Is it, rubber, foam, no sting? And I don't even acknowledge cloth because I'm so, I hate it so much. But now I have to know, of the 4 that you've experienced, how would you rank them?
Oh, this is a hard one. So I know some people would be like, oh, she's going to say cloth, but I'm really liking no sting. I think I would say no sting's my favorite. I think part of it is that it's the same size as a cloth ball, but you can like properly hold it more, and I can whip it and do different stuff with it. So I'm really enjoying that, especially because we have co-ed no sting that's in the East Coast. So it's a lot of fun being able to play with that ball and almost be like, oh, I can throw like some of the guys.
Nice.
And then second, this is where it gets tough, because now I'm kind of want to say cloth, but I think that's just because it's my home ball, but I've really grown to like foam. And so sadly, 8.5 will be my last one.
Oh my God, that's never happened before.
What? Well, I do really like 8.5, which is why it's hard, because I like every type of ball style.
Right.
But because last year I didn't get to play any 8.5 except for if I was just doing like an open gym. And I got injured at round 3, so I couldn't play 8.5 at nationals. So this year I've been able to play every single other type of dodgeball except for that. So sadly, 8.5's gone down in the scale.
Yeah, that's fair. And I mean, you already kind of justified that with just the argument that if you want to be the best, you just have to be able to adapt and overcome.
Yeah.
And it's
so I like every ball.
yeah, I mean, and I guess that's an acceptable answer. I like dodgeball, therefore I like all of them.
Yeah.
That's fair.
I don't like stingers. I will not play with those. I refuse to play with it.
Yeah, if we're gonna play with stingers, we might as well just do paintball. Like that.
Yeah.
At that point, it's not dodgeball anymore. It's just who wants to hurt other people or who can tolerate the most pain.
I play paintball. I love that, but no stingers.
Those were. I guess there really truly is something worse than cloth, and it's the stinger. That kind of changes my perception a little bit now.
Oh, I'm so happy that you've had to change of your ways.
I know. I've been pretty anti-cloth for a very long time, but now that I think about stinger, I'm like, okay, we can form an alliance here and just hate on stingers, set aside our differences. Well, very cool. I've got a couple more questions before you transition into the crowdsourced ones. And usually what kicks this off is just Markel Stokes asking if there are any songs that amp you up for a dodgeball game. And so far, the last 2 people have said there isn't anything. They just show up and they're ready to play. So I'm really curious. Like, do you have a song that you go to?
So I used to not have a song. And then I was listening to some of the podcasts before, and I was like hearing that some people had a song that they like amped up to before a dodgeball game. I was like, right, like I'm going to pick something.
Oh, nice.
So one song, I don't know. Well, I know why I ended up choosing it. It was because when I was a kid, it was like the only song that my father would let me have on my Nokia brick phone. And it was, it's one of the songs from The Matrix. It's called I think it's called Club to Death.
Club to Death. Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, and one reason that I really like it is, so it's like a variation of classical music and like more upbeat, and it's no lyrics in it, so you don't necessarily have like the worry about like singing along. But it really helps regulate my breathing because of the pace of it. So I've been using it a lot for when I work out, or like before I go to an open gym, I'll like put it on to help me control my breathing. So now one big reason I started doing that was because I was like, to make a big push to try and improve my game, I need to improve my survival skills. So when I'm by myself at the end, what can I do to make me not feel like I'm dying because I'm exhausted? So I was like, I need to work on like how to control my breathing. So I was starting to do that a little bit. And then when I listened to the song, I was like, this is great for this. So now I've like started listening to it on repeat because it's like almost 8 minutes long. So it's a great like warm up song.
Yeah. And it's got a great build too.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good song. It's stuck in my head now. I'm totally okay with that.
Well, after you get off this, you're like, I've got to listen to this.
Yeah. I got to go run now, or I got to do something active.
Yeah.
Is it just that song, or do you have like a playlist now, or?
I kind of have a playlist. Like I've started coming out, and I had like a couple more that was. Let me see. I've got my phone near me. I know one of them I just added is Phil Collins, the In the Air.
Yep, that's a good one too.
I was like, that's a great one. I've started having this huge thing for 80s music.
Yes.
There's like the good radio station that doesn't have many commercials near where I live. It's like the 80s channel. So I'm like, right, I'm just going to leave it on. And so now I'm like, did you know this song was on? This is a great song. But definitely Phil Collins is on there now. And then I'm trying to see. Sorry, the pausing.
Oh, no worries. I was just thinking another reason why eight's amazing is because it's the 80s decade and the music that
Yeah,
it gave us. And
it's the best music.
that's so good.
I'm going through and I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, oh, one of the other ones is Madonna, Like a Prayer. But that's more for like if I'm just feeling like trying to be fun and happy and getting ready.
Gotcha.
But yeah, there's not
zone.
a playlist as of yet. There's just a couple of songs that I'm like, oh, I like to listen to. But it's definitely the Club to Death from the Matrix soundtrack. That's my go-to.
We should definitely check out Furious Angel, because that's also a really good one, and from the same Reloaded soundtrack.
Oh, great.
And
Furious Angel.
Yeah, it's got that slow build, and you're just like, I want to go violent right now. In a very eloquent or a very elegant way. And then that one, and what's that?
I was like, it's definitely rubbed off from my parents, because I know like one of the first concerts I went to was like a Prodigy concert.
Oh, crazy. Nice.
Like ever since then, I like the real drastic mix of like where there's like classical music mixed in with this. Not screaming though, but
you feel it. Do you have a favorite Prodigy song? Just because I've not heard of them, or they've not been brought up in my life in a very long time. So floodgates opening up here.
I forgot what it's called. I'm really bad with the names of songs, because I'm always like, oh, I love this one song, but it's that one where it's like, she's a fire starter.
I was just gonna say Firestarter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's literally just called Firestarter, so perfect.
Yeah. Oh, see, that I said it. I knew that. That's what I was going with.
Yep. Yeah, no, okay, I'm gonna open up my iTunes later and play some good old school music.
Now I've just got loads of Prodigy songs stuck in my head.
Yeah, it's like I said, it's a floodgate. It's all opening up. But I was also gonna suggest, if you like 80s, I've been on this huge like retro wave synth type of music, and it's basically taking sounds from the action movies from the 80s and remixing them into like pretty awesome upbeat fast-paced tempo songs now, and it's awesome. Yeah.
Oh,
and that's actually what my opening song is. It's part of the whole retro synth movement, and same thing with the closing. So
I love that.
Yeah, I love that. I always like just rag on the generation of the millennials and these kids, like they're awful music, but some of them give me hope, and the ones that are making this amazing music, it just makes me so happy for the future. I'm sorry if I'm going to offend anybody, but there's this band that I went to the first time I was in New York. It was like a couple of days, and they're called Caribou. And there was like a lot of people that are like, oh, we love this music. I forgot what the genre is, but basically they had this one song at the end that was called Sun. But the reason it was called Sun was because the only word that they say, and it goes on for 10 minutes. Oh, jeez.
And it's just like sun, 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 sun. I was like, I can't stand it.
Like, what is this garbage?
Where's the beat? Where's the melodies? Where's the funk?
Where's the attempt? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, I can't.
Where's the bridge?
Just something, some kind of musical structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, this defies everything.
I might have to YouTube that just so I can just understand, but I have a pretty good idea of what it sounds like, and I'm already not liking it.
Don't ruin your evening.
Yeah, maybe I won't do that. I'll just take your word for it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll send you a link offline of some of the retro stuff, because it's so good. But
I would love that.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like the slow build, techno, then slowly kind of get crazy. That's like kind of like paints a story. Like you walk into the court or the gym, you're taping up, you're putting on your gear, and you're slowly getting stretched out and warmed up. And by the time that, I guess, like that climax sits, like you're playing, you're just going all kinds of crazy. That's pretty cool. Yeah. Need to make.
Now you're going to start using it.
Yeah, I need to make a music video of that now somehow. Alrighty, so let's go ahead and go into the crowdsourced questions. And Colin Dowling, I had to practice that.
Say it right.
Yeah, I had to say it right, and if you're listening to the end of this, you might know why. But he asked, "How will you help grow the sport?"
So since moving to Ohio, I've definitely been like, oh, there's not as much dodgeball here. So one thing that we've tried to do is we opened up open gym at the local Y.
Nice.
Got some like kids involved and whatnot. And then I was discussing with some of the girls because we were like, oh, how, because next season they're going to try and do the 3v3 co-ed ratio. And so some of the girls were talking and we're like, oh, how can we do it to get more women into it or like into the sport or wanting to come out and compete? And I was like, oh, Kelly's tournaments that she runs, the Women's Classic and the LA Classic, are so successful, like bringing people out and traveling to it. I was like, there's really nothing that we have anything like that on the East Coast. So I talked about potentially trying to host something because Ohio is really cheap for like trying to rent stuff out. And I was like, oh, I could just invite loads of women. We can have loads of air mattresses in our apartment to save money. But I was thinking about trying to like host something that's kind of like what Kelly has. But that's for either in like the East region or near where we live. But there's also in England, they used to have this campaign that was called This Girl Can. So this is more like promoting women's dodgeball. But it was this campaign that was promoting women in sport, and it was like a national campaign. And they would get involved with different universities. So the university used to have this thing where every tournament that they would have like a This Girl Can nominee. And it was like whoever was the best women player of the day or like someone like some kind of recognition,
right?
They would get something for it. So it's just to promote more women to come into the sport. And that was like that's something that really benefited the club that I was with there. And we got a surplus of women come and join us after. So there was something I was thinking about. It's like kind of in the works, but one thing I noticed was that, especially in elite and in the East Coast, the women don't get much coverage. So like in a lot of our final games, sadly, there's not many guys from like the Open that come out to watch it, or we don't get like many of our pictures taken. So one thing I was going to try and incorporate was to get some of the girls together to like, if you're not reffing or you're just sitting, I was going to bring out my camera, and I was talking with someone else about getting their camera and like making sure that we capture a lot of like the women's division, and like especially in co-ed too, like try and capture a lot, and then try and make something small scale that's like within the East Coast region. So like do something like, oh, if you had a highlight player, like commend that player, and like do something where like a lot of these girls, when I was doing the Royale team photos, I realized nobody really had really good action shots. So like even doing something like that, like trying to provide to girls that they have this action shot that they can use to like promote, or that they played dodgeball and it's not just like they were just sat on the court or whatnot. But that's something that's really small scale in the works. But I'm trying to help promote it more, because that's something that we have an issue with the East, and a lot of teams are worried about the next season going to 3v3 in the co-ed is like getting enough women to come out. Gotcha. So trying to set something up.
That's awesome. And yeah, that's a good point, because it's like it, once Open's done, I mean, if you're not playing, teams are gone, and there's little motivation to stick around and watch. And one of the things that seems to happen a lot is, especially in my experience of doing recaps for the past year, last year, was like, if we couldn't get a good sampling of women players, then it's like, well, we can't really talk much about it because no one else is paying attention, or because it was run concurrently with the Open division. And so it just seems to be like a continuous issue, and not to really point fingers at anybody, but yeah, just being able to acknowledge that more and be like, oh, there's a whole nother division of dodgeball that could still use the same promotion, same attention, same I don't want to say care, but just like the same something, because it has a lot of effects. So
Yeah, because that was something that I know Dom. I talked to Dom a little bit about it before, and like I think he mentioned it in your podcast that it was like, oh, he couldn't film as much as the women's because the Open was playing at the same time. So it's like, well, what can we do that when he, like, for example, he made these highlight videos. Like, is there a way that we could do where we'll coordinate with a lot of the women's teams to get footage of like some of their favorite highlight plays from their teams and be able to make our own highlight video that then we can use to kind of boost up the support? Because I know last year there was like a couple of teams that were like, oh, it's great playing in the women's, but especially in round 2, we were in like they had, it was one of those like indoor ice hockey arenas,
Right.
and it's a great venue, but where they had the women's division was kind of in this caged off basketball court. And it was like you had to exit the hockey rink from the other side and walk all the way around to get to where the women's division was. So there was a lot of the Open players couldn't actually come and watch a lot of our games. There was a couple teams that came out. I know Precision, those guys came out a lot. But when it would happen with our finals, like we'd finish and then nobody would know that the finals just took place, or because Open was going on and everyone was like enclosed there. So it's like, oh, how can we promote the women's going on and like have where not necessarily just Open players, but other people can see that and be able to go to your rec league and be like, oh, we have a women's division. Like we play, like welcoming, it's bringing new players. And they're like, oh, well, what's that? And being able to have something like, be like, oh, well, here's some footage or promotional photos that we've done, and be like, oh, look, here's a clip that you can watch just our women's division, like how these girls play and like the environment that's there. So that was something that I've been thinking of, and I'd messaged Tim Wells, like, can I take some photos? Nice. Do I have to have like a little leaflet that I have to give out to everybody to say, can I take their picture?
Like little waivers here and there.
Yeah, I'm like, can you sign this waiver?
I'm pretty sure there's a release.
Yeah, he said that. Like when they sign up to Elite, it's kind of when you sign the waiver, it says like you kind of sell your rights.
Yeah, you sign your photo rights away.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, who's going to complain about photos of themselves playing dodgeball? I can maybe think of one person that might be opposed to that, but even then, no, I don't think that'd be an issue.
Because that was something that, especially in England, like in our in my university club, was like a huge push to, like, I helped set up the first ever women's team that we had at our club, or like I was one of the first ever women committee players, and it was like, oh, how can we get more women to come out to this? And so seeing something like that, and like I've had some discussions with players in the East and like a little bit with Colin about like how you can get more women involved. So I was like, well, it's not necessarily just a word of mouth. You've got to have something to kind of advertise for it.
Right.
So that's something I'd like to have in the works.
I want to ask real quick. So, and again, this is me showing my terrible geography, but are you, do you still consider yourself East? Like you're not closer to North now?
So I think, I don't know how the Elite bracket works, but I'm in Ohio, so I think technically at North, but I'm traveling to all of the East tournaments.
Gotcha.
And I was like, oh, I'm an East Coaster. And I was like, Ohio's technically, it's so far east, it shouldn't be classed as anywhere else.
Well, you're also in the Eastern time zone, so that should qualify you.
Yeah, there's somebody was like, oh, you're moving to the Midwest. And I was like, how is it the Midwest? It's like the most easternly point.
It's like, no.
I was like, they're just trying to get away from it. Well, like, how can the Midwest be like 3/4 of the country?
It's pretty vast, but I also would think Midwest, like, okay, Nebraska, Kansas, corn, endless cornfields.
Yeah, I don't know where the states are.
Don't think how's that? It's in the middle somewhere. Somewhere in the middle between Texas and I think Michigan. So
yeah, somewhere along there. Yeah.
Yeah, but the reason why I asked was because if you're talking about earlier how you might want to do like a like an all women's event, and bringing them over to Ohio. I was wondering if maybe that might be a good like meeting point for both East and North based and interested women players. So
yeah, that's something I've thought about because especially in the North, I know when they had nationals this year at Minneapolis, they'd held one of the tournaments in Ohio. It was near Columbus. But that's something where I was like, oh, that's something that some of the North players could get to too. But that was something that was just kind of a small idea that I'm like, oh, well, we're trying to look to see if we can get any gyms and potentially host some little tournaments. And because it is very, very cheap in Ohio.
You got to take advantage of that. That's awesome.
Yeah, you're like, oh, and that's why I was saying that then it's a lot of like if people traveling. And I was like, well, if we have our apartment, I was like, if the cat doesn't mind that there's like 20 women in here, I'll like have everybody just stay here for free. Or I was like, whatever to make it cheaper for people to come. Because I know like for a return flight, especially from like the DC area, I think it only costs like $90, maybe even less than that. I think it was $90 when I looked.
It's not bad.
But I have to get something. A small scale.
Yeah, start
no
small.
No promises to everybody yet.
Yeah, start small and see where it can go. I mean, shoot, Elite started with just 8 teams, and now look at it, it's a monster. So
yeah,
and that was only 8 years ago. So
yeah, it's crazy how much it's grown.
Right. Yeah, I mean, just like you said, start small, and who knows, maybe a year from now we'll be talking about a recap. So
yeah.
But let's go ahead and proceed with these questions. Dominic asks, how's your foot? And I think you've been saying you had an injury last year and you've been covering. So was that it? Like, did you injure your foot?
Yeah, so it was in the middle of round robin in the women's division in round 3. I broke my ankle on court. So, and it was like the most stupidest way ever. I ran for the ball on the rush. Well, before the rush, Kate Kerrins, I don't mean to call her out, but she said it. She was like, we'll try something new.
Oh, no. That's a terrible way to start it.
Like, we'll try something new. Like, when you run up, instead of getting one ball, because it'd be that she would get 2 balls and then pass it over. She was like, you get 2 balls and then turn and pass it to Emily Hart. She's in the corner. So I was like, okay. And as I was running, I like picked up the ball and I was like, wait, how am I going to turn this so I don't get hit? And I put my foot down, and then apparently my body moved, and then the rest of my foot didn't move.
Just said, no, we're not doing this.
Yeah. And I snapped the fibula. So it's that little bone just on the outside of your ankle. And I had snapped it just in front, just above it. And that was like in the middle of the rush. And I like twisted it at first, and then when I'd landed, I felt like a big crunch. And then, luckily, Alfred, he's a podiatrist.
I was gonna ask, like, I guess you had like the best person to be there when that happened.
Yeah. So that's when it happened. I was like, "Can you take a look?" So now everybody's like, "Oh, you got your podiatrist."
Nice.
I was like, he's on hand. He's 24/7 on call with me. But he took a look, and when he had taken off my shoe to take a look, it like made a pop noise, and we both made eye contact, and I was like, it's broken. And then all the girls were lovely about it, and they like carried me out of the venue to take me to hospital. I think it was Kate's girlfriend had taken me to hospital. And I just remember like people looking over, and there was just me. There was like 4 people on me. 1 was on each limb, and like carried me out to the car. And then when I got my x-rays done, they're like, yep, you've got a spiral fracture. I was like, oh, how long is it going to take me to like heal? Because I have a tournament. So I made that cloth team for the WDA, and she was like, oh, it will only take 4 weeks to heal, which is lies. So I was like, oh, I can still make it. And I was in a cast for 6 weeks.
Yeah. Dang.
And then in a boot for 3.5 weeks. And then so when that WDA event was on, I was in a boot. But and then I missed nationals because of it too, because I couldn't play. And then I was going to go to that Tribune, the draft tournament, the Tribune tournament, but
In December, I think.
Right when I'd started playing dodgeball again. But at that point, I was like, oh, I don't want to, whilst I've just started, go out and then play like 2 days worth of hardcore dodgeball. So I held out for the LA Classic. So that was my first tournament back. But it's good now. I'm probably like 93%. I don't know. Like not 100% yet, but I could do a lot of my movements. I've just had to adapt a lot. So I can't jump as much as what I used to, because I think part of it's I'm just paranoid about planting my foot back down. And after being immobile for so long.
Gotta like get that trust, I guess, or I mean, is it more mental now at this point, or is your foot back to?
It's like 100% mental. Like I'm good to play on it and everything, but I'll like still wear a brace because I'm like, oh, I'm just worried sometimes. But when I play, like I've kind of adapted my game a lot to so where I don't have to like think about it whilst playing. So now when I play, I don't even think about it, but I just won't be as like jumping as much.
Right. More grounded, I guess, or
yeah, or I've definitely worked on like blocking skills and what I can do to like make myself smaller. So like watching lots of footage of like how players like crouch down and how they block like that and what they do successfully to where it doesn't just block into their foot. And so it's like doing those kind of things to adapt my play more. Because I know like a lot of people, when they have bad knees, they don't want to drop on their knees. So like how do they adapt? They like fall back more. Like Crystal does that a lot. She was saying about, I was talking with her and she had said something about her knees, so she like falls back a lot because she doesn't want to drop forward.
That's crazy that there's like I'll say that there's like a solution or an adaptation for everything, but yeah, if you look at Crystal, or because I know Nate Crater does it a lot, so does Vince. They'll do that like sliding backwards catch, and sometimes that seems way more effective than jumping. Yeah. And so there's like an answer or a counter for everything you can't do. Like, oh, I can't jump, so I got to play around this, or I can't plant to my right foot anymore, so I got to figure out a way to not block, so I'm taking myself out. And it just shows like, yeah, if you're a great dodgeball player, you'll figure out you'll figure out how to play with foam, with cloth. You'll figure out how to play with a scared ankle, or you just adapt and overcome. But it's healed though. At the very least, it's healed. It's just you gotta get over that mental.
It's good. Yeah, It's just the mental now.
Gotcha. Edgar Fox asked, "How are you feeling a few years removed from Brexit?" So, was there a team called Brexit, or is he just playing off of the whole Brexit?
Playing off the whole Brexit.
Yeah.
I'd be upset.
I don't know if I want to get into that because that could be a whole podcast by itself. But
yeah, that's.
I think you said. Yeah, I think you said you're happy here anyway. So because of dodgeball, and we'll just chalk it up to that.
Like what?
Let's see. And I did want to ask about this one. So Justin, I'm pretty sure it's Bosch. I've heard it correct so many times, but I just mentally am going to mess it up no matter what I do. I think I'll go out of my way to mess it up. But he asks, do you miss playing with Power Lords? And did he spell that right? L-O-A-R.
He spelled it wrong.
Like, was it doing Lords, like trying to make an accent?
Well, I don't think he was trying. I think he just makes a lot of spelling mistakes.
Fair enough. Yeah, so do you miss playing with Power Lords? I mean, you brought them up a few times earlier, so what's...
To put it nicely, I missed playing with some of the people.
I see.
They were a fun team, and it was like a nice team to start, but so I'm a very positive player. So like every game, I'd always say like every game 0-0. There's no score. It's like a fresh new game. And then instead of being like, you shouldn't have made that throw, be like, oh, next time instead of doing this, approach it in this way. So I try to be negative, because I always think if you not be negative, be positive, because if you promote, if you act positive, you stay positive, you play positive,
Right.
and then you'll be successful because you're being in a positive attitude. I always feel like if you play negatively, then you just get so wound up that you make the same mistakes, and then that's when you see people like, "Argh."
Yeah, you get flustered.
Yeah.
Or, as you put it,
so
you just roar.
Yeah. Just roar.
Yep.
But so like I used to play with Justin and Dre. And Dre is, when I first met him, so he's one of those guys that you look at him and he's a really tall, like muscular man. He's got
imposing kind of guy.
Beard, and he's like, you're like, oh, he's got a really hard throw. And then he's the most zen person I think I'd ever met. Like he would do yoga before, like he's a fitness instructor, but he's very zen. Like I've never seen him get angry. And so when we first started playing with Power Lords, unfortunately, sometimes like if they have like a play would go wrong, things would come very negative, and he would just be very calmed, and he would just go off and like put a towel over his head and zen out.
Nice.
So it was nice that I think that year when I was like, oh, I don't really want to play with them, Justin and Dre had and Speedy and Anthony that played with them, they decided to leave Power Lords too, because they're like, we want to play on a team that promotes this like kind of positive view.
Right.
So I missed playing with them, which is kind of nice, because now with GOAT I'll get a chance to like reunite the Power Lords team.
Nice. Yeah, you get to play with them again, and I got to interview them, and I remember in the interview, I remember, man, this Dre seems like a pretty cool guy, but then when I saw him, I was like, this guy's a monster. He's huge. Like,
yeah, everybody's like, oh, Dre's got the hardest throw, or like he's this big guy that you get in like very intimidated, and then you just meet him, and he's such a sweetie.
Yeah. Still great on the court though, but off the court he seemed really cool.
Yeah, he's like killer on the court, but
yeah. Not gonna call him a sweetie when I'm facing off against him with the ball.
Hey sweetie, can you pass me the ball?
Yeah, won't be doing that. But yeah, GOAT's a great team, and I'm looking forward to seeing how they do this year in both open and co-ed.
Me too.
Yeah, I think you've got some stake involved. So, so speaking of teams to look forward to, Sergio Leone asks, are there any women's matchups you look forward to playing with Royale, or which team are you eyeballing so far from a preseason standpoint? Like, who are you looking forward to playing against as of now? So,
especially in the East rounds, there's this new team that's forming that's called Clash, which is Tasha's team, Tasha Maven. I don't know if that's her actual name or if that's her Facebook name. She's a good friend of mine, so I'm just like, oh no. But that's got like Tasha, Danielle Zielinski. It's got a lot of the Canadian players.
Okay.
I'm gonna butcher people's names. I think it's Marcel. They've got a lot of good Canadian players, and some of them were the ones that won Sin City this year with the Sin City slots. Tanya Kaiser's team, they won the women's in Sin City this year.
Okay.
So they're definitely a team that I'm looking forward to playing against, because some of the players I haven't actually seen how they play, and there's no footage, so I can't see how they play. And then there's also another player that they've got is Emily Baumgardner, and I used to play with her on Arkham in co-ed, and she's a fantastic player. She's like one of the main reasons that when in the East I was like, I want to be as good as her. She was a great player, but she left Dodgeball for the past 2 years, so it'll be good seeing her come back out and play again. So I think that they're going to be a really good team and mix things up a lot, because I know especially a lot of their players play really like aggressively on the court, so rather than just defensively. So it'd be good having another team that kind of plays aggressively too.
pretty cool. I was gonna ask because I was trying to remember arc and was like, oh, I remember this is the weirdest thing. I don't know if people are gonna pick up on it, but I remember her name, Baumgartner, because I think that's the name of the kid from Rookie of the Year. And so for some reason that always just like stuck. So I always wonder like what happened to her, if she's still playing.
Yeah, she. I think the thing was is she works for LinkedIn, and I think she had to do like a lot of traveling, and then she's also really into volleyball too.
I see.
So I think some of it was just like commitment that has like such a busy schedule that she was like, oh, I can't find the time as much. And then I think what happened was we had Flo on a team, and we had like mixed up some of the roster, and then unfortunately Flo had left and Emily left too, and then since then she didn't join another team.
I see.
But every time I talk to her, I'm like, you need to come back out. Like, she's a great player. At the time, probably one of the best players in the East. So it's a real shame for her to go. So that's why I'm really excited for her to come back and play. And as soon as Tasha had posted the video that they had of their team on #Dodgeball Family, I was like, oh, you've got Emily to come back and play? This is amazing.
That's awesome.
I would say, like, even though there'd be one of our rivals, I'm like, well, you got to play the best to be the best. So
there you go.
If I beat them, I'm like, yes.
Yeah, you would look at it as like, oh, you're just an obstacle for me to become the best. So I'm looking forward to that on many accounts now.
Yeah, you're like,
that's
yes, awesome. I'm ready for this.
Very cool. Yeah, I'm looking at their Facebook page and the graphics and how they're releasing like players, and that's some really good work. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that team.
It's really nice.
Yeah.
I love the flash and then the kind of faded look with the like falling stars kind of look.
Yeah, the branding is just like so on point. I love it. So it's good stuff. Let's see. Sergio definitely went ham on this thread, and I'm just trying to see if there's some questions we might have.
You're a question master.
He's really good, and Sergio, if you're listening, thanks, man. Because sometimes he'll ask questions that I thought of or forgot or didn't catch. So he's kind of like my safety net. He had asked, coming from Europe, are there any noticeable differences between the evolution of the women's game as far as participation and play level? So that's actually a good one. How would you approach that? Like, is there a big difference between women here in the States versus in England, or what's that like?
So in England, I feel like England kind of had a head start. So everything's like really organized out there. They have like a league that's similar to like USA Dodgeball. So they had like a women's division, I think, before they had a women division here. So they've been developing that more and more. But I have to say, in regards to, like, especially on the West Coast, there's so many women involved. And that's great to see that they can host these tournaments where there's tons of these teams. And like, we're getting more women on the East Coast. So as regard to like, as in participation, I think America's growing to where it will be kind of like, the same sort of standard, but play-wise, I think America has England beat.
Nice.
Like a lot of like some of the European players too, because playing against some of these girls, like in England, they play dodgeball, but I really like how a lot of the American girls play, and like especially some of the West Coast girls play, where they play quite aggressively. So it's like when you're playing, you're going back and forth, and you're like, I'm not going to let you just throw at me. I'm going to punish you if you throw at me.
It's going to cost you.
So I think evolution-wise, I think America has better talent. Oh, some of these people in England are going to hate me. But yeah, I think it just needs to get to the level of like organizational level.
Gotcha.
Is what they have out there.
Cool. So on the organizational standpoint, you want to say Europe's kind of ahead a little bit, but in terms of competition, America's kind of pulling ahead there.
Yeah, I think America has better competition because there's a lot of top tier teams. It's not just the women's, so like open to and co-ed, there's a lot of teams that are like at the top, whereas I feel like in England there's only a certain number of teams that are at the top, and then there's like different levels as you go down. So I think competition wise, it's better here for my personal development as a player and like the style that I play.
Right. And as you mentioned before, like when you go back to Europe to play, you're just like, you're different, like a little bit sharper maybe, or you have like more tactics to employ, or you're just kind of like, you can show that how much you've grown a little bit.
Yeah. Like a lot of my team can say this too, like I'm never going to be the one that to be like, I'm the best player, or I'd never be like that. I'm always like humble to my skill, but it's that I've learned something that's not necessarily made me a better player than them, but it's something that they've not used in their game. So it's like, gives me advantage. I'm like, yes.
You got that edge. Well, like you're saying with pump faking, like, oh, check this out. Like just freaking people out with this weird tactic that they're not used to.
Yeah. Ooh.
Let's see. Are you team taco or team pizza? Actually, I'm really curious
team
now. Oh man, I didn't even finish the sentence. Okay. I guess it's fair. I mean, I'm in the Southwest. I'm very spoiled. The best Mexican food you can ever get is here in Arizona. So
I've always loved Mexican food.
That's so good.
After living in New York for 3 years, everybody was like, the pizza's the best there. I'm like, I love the tacos. So as soon as I saw that question, someone posted that, I was like, I'm going to make someone happy with being team taco.
I think you made Sean Anderson happy.
Yeah.
That guy, he seems to enjoy his tacos, but
yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I'll give you that. Just, again, you're saturated in pizza. Here, yeah, I mean, not as much, but definitely saturated in tacos, and they're amazing, don't get me wrong, but I just love my pizza, man. It's so good. He also asked, let's see, might have to pluck one out of these. What is your favorite jersey from each region? Curious about that one, actually.
Okay, so East, goat.
Fair.
I think everyone's going to say goat.
Yeah, they got a sick design. They got a good look.
I just like, it's so vivid. Like, I'm not even that big of a fan of the color pink, but I think it's just the color schemes.
Yeah, they made it work somehow.
Yeah. So I'm kind of happy that I'm playing on their team. So I'm like, nice jersey. And then from the north, I'd have to say Dynasty.
Yeah, they look good.
It's that same kind of similar thing where it's that color contrast is really nice.
Yeah.
And I like the lion and that they have like a crest as like their other logo. So I'm like, oh, it's kind of British.
Of course. Drawn to that.
Yeah, bias. On the West Coast, I have to say Rainbows.
Yeah.
I think it's the colors. I like, this is where I was also saying, like, it's kind of contradicting because my team's got some black jerseys. But I just like the different colors because there's a lot of jerseys you see where it's like black and then writing or kind of style.
Right.
So it's nice to see something different and that's like bright and colorful. Because I really like their one it's kind of blurred colors. They have one that's got the stripes on it with the trees, I think. And then they have the kind of where it's mixed into one with the mountain. I love that one. And then I don't really know about the South. I'm unfortunately one of those players that I don't know much of the jerseys that they have down there.
Yeah, they're and I'm guilty of this too. Like I do like the Outsiders because it does have a good like red and black kind of combination.
Yeah.
Adrenaline Rush looked really good when they did show up.
Oh, yes, Adrenaline Rush. That was my favorite one I remember seeing them at Boston.
And they bust out with like the different color scheme the next day. I'm like, you guys can't do that.
Yeah. You're like, what?
You look too good. Stop it.
But I'm looking forward to, I'm actually going to try and go to South Round 1 this year.
Oh, nice.
So we have to update you on the which jerseys are like the best there.
Awesome. We can come back to that one. Let's see. Sergio's next question kind of ties into one that I want to ask, but Colin asked, how has Dodgeball strengthened your relationship? And I'm guessing with Alfred here.
I think it's helped a lot.
Oh, he even asked for clarification.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what do you mean by relationship? Well, he messaged me and he was like, you're still with Alfred, aren't you? It's like, oh, yes.
Oh, okay. That would have been.
I was like, okay, that's what you meant.
Yeah.
Because I thought you meant like relationship was like what with like the sport or
like friends or teammates. Yeah.
But it's nice having somebody that is also as into dodgeball as what I am. So like he was actually one of the first people that I ever met.
Nice.
In the dodgeball, like going to the rec league, he was there, and it was great. Like I was talking with him, and when we started dating, he was like, "Oh, I love the fact that you're like really into dodgeball too." So we would like have these conversations like normal, and then when we'll be driving somewhere, and it'll be like we would drive from like New York to Cleveland to visit some family, and the entire drive we'd end up talking about dodgeball, and it was like, oh, this helps my drive so much.
Nice. It just makes it go by really fast.
Yeah. And like it would happen to play on the same team together, and it was like good to be able to talk about like team tactics too. But it's nice because we get to travel together to a lot of tournaments, and he's a great moral support too. So when I play, we'll do a lot of some critiquing. So he'll be like, oh, on that last play, I'll be like, what did I do wrong? Because I did something wrong. He's like, oh, you need to be more patient. Or I saw that you pushed up too soon. So if you're worried about someone sniping you, like step a bit further back. I'm like, okay. And then he'd be the same thing. He's like, look, I did something wrong then. Can you help me out?
That's really cool.
So it's both strengthened our relationship and strengthened our skills and like being able to critique yourself.
That's cool. And that doesn't turn into like fighting, or you guys don't get on each other's nerves with that kind of criticism? Because like I've seen some couples go at it when they play together. Couples. So
no, we'll be good. I think it's because it's like I said, like I always try and promote positive.
Mm-hmm.
So like if you approach a scenario, so like let's say, I'm not saying he's done this, but goes up and he throws all the balls, or he does something where like he pushes up too much and like gets himself out, instead of being like, you shouldn't have done that, you shouldn't have pushed up. I'll be like, look, I noticed that you gotten out when you pushed up that far. Next time, if you feel like you're getting out, like I was saying, like step further back before you throw. And he'd be like, oh, like thank you. Like I don't believe that if you have a problem, like you should yell at someone about it.
Right.
Like you should approach it from a different point, like give a solution rather than an argument for it. So we very rarely ever have, like, I don't think we've had any like on-court issues or off-court in regards to dodgeball.
That's awesome. Yeah, Alfred's awesome. Like I remember, I think I laughed so much when we played against you guys and him in the classic. And I remember one time I was just like so dead set on hitting him, not in a malicious way, but just because I had to. It's Dr. Kwan. You must take him out.
Yeah.
And I had him like dead to rights, and I just like wanted to just blast him, but I couldn't do it, and I ended up missing. I was like, oh, why did I show mercy? And he just like started laughing, and yeah, it was hilarious. And I can't say a bad thing about him. He seems like a really cool person, and seems like he would be able to take criticism lightly and stay positive and not subscribe to the yelling to improve people.
Definitely. Like sometimes he'll like get annoyed at himself, as like people do when you like, if you do something and you're like, oh, that was so stupid.
Yeah.
But like I was saying, it's always key to like, whenever you're on a team, to try and not give that negative vibe back. So it's kind of like, oh, if he does get annoyed, then I'll be like extra tentative to be like, look, if you want anything to like help you, I'll help you out. And then just to not fuel fire with fire.
Right. Just
fuel it with ice cream.
Oh man, I want ice cream now. That's great. Like you said, you just worry about the solution, not the problem, and just kind of redirect it to take something positive out of it and something constructive.
Yeah. Like our team was fluffy bunnies.
Yeah, you can't have anything negative with
I
that.
can't get angry at that.
It's impossible. Let's see. This would be a good one. Sergio Leone again asks, and this is David Tate's question. But who would your 4 individuals be for Mount Dodgemore, which is like the Mount Rushmore of dodgeball?
That's the one with all the presidents on it, isn't it?
Correct.
Oh God, it's so bad.
Don't feel bad. I couldn't even tell you who they are right now, so I'm terrible. But yeah, that's the one.
Oh, I don't know. Let's see. I'd say definitely Jake Mason. He's done so much for the community, and I think it's absolutely amazing that he's the USA Dodgeball. It's so nice to like have an organization that everything can kind of fall under. So I know like in England they used to have the UK DBA, and it would be that you'd have to pay a membership to play, and then they would help host tournaments, and that would like go towards refs and like paying for refs. So it's nice to see that the USA is finally getting something like that.
Right.
And then trying to see Mark Acom. I think that's how you say his name.
It's a comb.
Cool.
I've been saying it wrong my whole life. I'm like, I know this guy. I've known him for so long. I've been butchering his name.
Is it a comb or a comb?
It's like a comb, like a hair comb. And that's how I'll always remember it now. Because he even told me like it's spelled a comb, like.
Oh, okay, a comb. I've been saying it wrong for so long.
Yeah, there's a lot of us out there.
But done so much, and I think, especially for me, like coming from a different country and like playing competitively, and then coming here and then finding elite, like when I first come, I was like, oh, elite was the only thing that was here, and then people told me about what happened with like NDL and stuff, and also seeing some of your like OG panel, and learning like just how much him and like other people have done to get away from that and like actually do something that's for the players. So I think he definitely deserves to be up there. And then I think for the sport, definitely in the women's, Kelly.
That's a good one.
Salamoni. I think I'm worse than you at pronouncing names.
Thankfully, I'm glad. Makes me look good. Appreciate it. Yeah, Kelly Salamoni.
Yeah, she's a sweetheart too. I met her, I think it was during my first elite season when, did you come out with Titan to Boston?
I did, yep. For round 3 in July.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
I met her then. We went out for brunch with our team and she came out, and she's just like a lovely person. Like seeing her, especially when I went to the first ever one of the classic tournaments was the one I went to in December. That's amazing how well that's run. And that she does that for the women's, and then that happens like every year. And she's, so I don't know if I should say, but we do have like a group that's like a Women of Dodgeball. So where it's like a forum, so like women can talk about experiences in dodgeball and whatnot. And she kind of fronts, or like started that and created it. So it's nice to kind of have like a spokesperson for it. And she does, I think even though I'm like on the East Coast, I can tell that she does a lot to help promote women in dodgeball from these competitive tournaments and whatnot. Yeah. And from your OG panel, she's been in the game for a long time.
Yeah, no, I was really grateful to be able to steal her for a couple hours because she's constantly active and constantly doing things and has her hands in everything. And so she really did help shed a lot of perspective into the OG panel, and because I personally have known her for a very long time as well. But she's always just been just gung-ho, get stuff done. Don't mess with her. Like if you need to ref, like she will make you ref. She definitely scares the crap out of me. But
that hashtag that's awesome. Like Kelly killed us. Or
Kelly tried to kill us. Yep.
Kelly tried to kill us. I've always wanted to go to that women's classic, but it's just always happened to fall at like a really bad time. It's like this year I was like, this is my year. I'm going to go. I'm going to make the effort to go. And then it's the one weekend I can't do it because my mother's visiting.
Oh, dang.
So I was like, no.
Dang it, Mom.
Like, oh no, haven't seen you in a year, but oh no.
I guess that's a good reason. That's fair.
That is a good reason. And then for the last one, I probably was saying Nicole Chasen.
Nice.
I met her a couple of years ago. She'd come out, so she also was at that round. And I know I also went to see like a US Open match with her. I think like Ish came out and Nina Fiore came out.
Fiore,
and I got to meet them and we watched some tennis together.
Huh.
And then I like found out that she helped basically create the Team USA. Or like one of the people to start like the international part of it from America.
Yep.
If I've gotten that wrong, I'm so sorry.
No, I think you're right. I mean, I'm like 99.9% sure it was her and Bill Fair really spearheading the whole getting the U.S. into the WDBF, spearheading the Team USA, and then also refining it too. And being, again, I might be wrong at this point, but I'm pretty sure she was instrumental in how Team USA was selected last year and how they're going to move things and make things better moving forward. So,
yeah, and definitely for me personally, after seeing her at that tournament, because that was like the first time I'd seen anybody on the West Coast, like, and how they played, and seeing her, I was like, I want to be like her.
Nice.
I was like, oh, she's a great player. Like, I love how she moves. And I was like, oh, it's like so fluid. I'm so used to like in England, you just like jump side to side. And then, well, when I was first starting to learn, and I was like, oh, she's dropping. She's like going for everything. And I was like, oh, so she was someone that when I first started out in elite that I really admired. So I think she should be up there.
Yeah, she's awesome. Just on the court, off the court, just all around. Pretty good person. Rob Hometown asked, well, he more like states, but I think we kind of covered this a little bit, but he said, please talk about the competitive level differences between USA and England. And then also, I love Alfred. You said no love for me. He said all. So I think he might have saved himself, but we did kind of cover the competitiveness a little bit, but I did want to ask, what was it like meeting him and playing on the same? Actually, you know what? Let me slow down because you said you were injured, right, for U.S. Dodgeball Team USA?
Yes. So I couldn't play in the cup, but I was on the sidelines.
Gotcha.
But I'd played like a little bit with him before at one of the sessions.
No, is he as awesome on the
he's
court?
He's got a great personality, and he's like, just seeing him play, you can tell that he just loves it. I know Alfred played with him a lot, and he's just a great guy to be on the court with. He's got a good attitude.
Yeah, I've known Rob since 2005, and I can't think of one bad thing to say about him. He's just always been an incredible ambassador to the sport, somebody that you really want to represent dodgeball, regardless of the organization. And he's just so positive. I think I might have played against him once this entire time, so still waiting for that to happen. But he seems like a great person.
I know that there's like obviously a little bit of I'm using the word like stigmatism or
stigma.
The word, between the obviously like with NDL before, but it's a real shame that he doesn't play in elite.
Yeah, that's okay. I do have something bad to say about him. He hasn't played elite with us. He won't. He won't play dodgeball with us.
He had kind of hinted that he was going to come out to a round last year. But they ended up not coming out.
I saw a post saying something about getting back into the fray, New York Empire. Don't know if that's an elite participation thing or what that's about, but
yeah, I don't know. I know definitely last year they had like said, oh, we're definitely coming to an elite round, and then it never happened. But it's a shame that they don't come out and play or in a league, because I know they have like a little league that they run there, and they play cloth a lot.
Which he said he loves. So crazy cloth people. Well, maybe we'll see. Maybe this is the year. Rob, if you're listening, come on, man.
Yeah, come in.
We gotta have our battle. Let's see. Abdul Saeed. Actually, do you know if I'm saying his name right? I think I am. Saeed.
I don't know.
Oh, well, he asked chips or French fries. Oh, okay. This is oh no. I got it. Oh man, I finally got it. I was like, well, duh, French fries. Chips are okay if you don't have any other options. And then
you're like, do you have any food preferences?
Yeah. Sean Anderson said those are literally the same thing, and well, actually, hold on. Did you say vastly different, or okay? I'm gonna back out and just let you explain.
Yeah.
Chips or French fries?
So, for England, so chips are kind of like, they're not French fries. The French fries are like really thin, and yeah, well, however you get them. And then in England, they're like kind of a similar thing, but they're chunkier and fluffy. So have you been to like when they have Irish pubs or whatnot, and they say like fish and chips, and then I don't know if they have just a regular French fries or if the big chunky ones, but it's basically if you were to take mashed potato and then kind of fry it, it's so good. But I say chips, not French fries. And then when you're saying chips or crisps, in England they call chips crisps, and I just now don't call them anything. I'll just say nachos or
nachos. That's what it's turned into.
Because there's so many times where I'll say something and then someone will be like, "What?"
Do you ask for like crisps? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, the worst thing is when I go into a restaurant and I'll say, "Oh, can I have some tap water?" And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "No, can I have some tap water?" What are you talking about? I'm like, "Water." "Oh, do you mean water?" It's like, "No, yeah, water." And so now, like, if I say certain stuff, I'll be like, "Oh, I'm just not gonna say any of this," because then the people will be like, "What do you mean?" But every time I go into like an Irish pub, and if they have like fish and chips on the menu, I always have to ask. I'm like, "Is this your chips, as in like your chips, where they're like nacho chips, or are they like the fluffy chips, or are they French fries?"
Or these French chips.
Fries, and I'm like, "Just give me the sweet potato ones."
Oh geez, you just go completely out of left field.
You're like, no.
That's funny. I think we call the fatter French fries steak fries.
Oh yeah, I think I've heard that someone say steak fries.
Yeah, so I think that might be closer to fish and chip fries.
Yeah, they don't taste as good.
Oh, how dare you!
England have the best.
I'll have to take your word for it and try it sometime.
Or fluffy fries.
That's just so funny. Are these chips or chips? Like, just that's gotta be frustrating.
Well, there's a big thing in England where it's like you have so after a night out, you'll go to like a kebab place or like a deli place or whatever, and you order chips with like either cheese chips and gravy, or chips covered in curry sauce, or like chips with chili and cheese. First moved here, me and my friend went out to dinner, and we were like, "Oh, they have chips and chili. They have chips and chili. Let's get this." And it came out, and it was the nacho chips, and we both sat there and we're like, "We are so disappointed."
This is not what we wanted.
I was like, "This is not what we wanted." So now whenever I go anywhere, if I'm not deliberately ordering nachos, I will not order it. Because I'm like, it's not going to be the same.
I was lied to.
Yeah, I'm like, so much trauma, so much heartbreak.
I'll never recover from this.
No.
Oh man.
That's why whenever I go back to England, I'm like, "Give me the chips. I need all the chips."
Oh man, yeah. I'm obviously not gonna be able to get fish and chips after this, but I need to have some kind of French fry. I'm just hardcore craving it now. So
food on the brain.
Oh, it's
I'm very
definitely on the brain.
oriented, so I'll like have breakfast. I'm like, "What are we having for dinner?"
Nice.
So just the thought of it, I'm like, I need food.
What about dinner though? I know it's like 8 hours away from now, 12 hours away, but what about it? let's move to what I like to call again. I know I was preface this way, and eventually I'll just start saying it. But Andrew Ketchum with this question, and that is, what do you want to achieve in dodgeball, and what keeps pushing you to play and get better, other than your obvious competitive drive, and what just keeps pushing you?
I think it's the fact that I feel like I'm forever learning. So I'll learn new stuff or I'll learn a new skill. And when I learn a new skill, I'll be like, oh, well, this has enhanced my game. I've not peaked. I can get even better. So definitely like what I want to achieve is to just get better at playing and like be able to be, not necessarily just recognize more, but be able to be like, oh, I'm coming to this round and I want to sub on a team, and then be honored to have like somebody that's a great player be like, we'd love to have you.
Right.
I know that may sound silly, but I know Tyler Greer he does those Tribune lists.
The rankings.
I don't know if it's like sometimes like the ranking list, and sometimes there's a little bit of like controversy about it because like some people get left off, and then some people like get upset or whatnot. But it's good to see where, if people to think of me from how I play or like how they've seen me play on a court, it's good to see where people think where I am and who I compare with. So then I can then look at the players that are above me and be like, okay, what can I do to make me almost like them and like play like them? Like I see Ashley Cook is one of my favorite players to watch. And I'll like say to her, I'm like, how do you do this throw? Like you throw from your knees. And it's not necessarily that I want to do that. I'm just like, how can you do that? You do like a full throw from your knees. And then, so it was great like playing with her at the LA Classic and like seeing a little bit. Unfortunately, she got injured right at the beginning, so she couldn't play as much. So I was like, oh no. But like seeing players like Ashley and asking like, what can I do to be better? Because I just want to learn. I love learning. And if there's anything I can do that helps improve my game or makes me even better, so when I face off someone like that, I can make them be like, no, I didn't think that this was going to be easy in. I wanted to make her fight against me, like fight for the win. What can I do to do that? So I think that's something it's also that competitive play, but it's just, I just want to be able to play like these players and have a girl that's just starting out dodgeball or like a teenager that's be able to play. And they see me like at the Y and they're like, you're a great player, and be like, oh, I'm actually like a really good player for like on the East Coast or some of these good players, and have her be like, I want to be like her. I'd love something like that, and be able to have people look at me how I admire all these other players. So it'd be nice.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that makes me sound big-headed, or hopefully not.
No, I don't think so. I mean, so first of all, like we said, like I just want to be constantly learning and want to learn all the ways that I can improve and get better. And that's a great way to tell whether or not you've plateaued or hit that wall. And if you can push past it by learning some new skill or adapting to some new play style. But then to kind of just take yourself out of your own shoes, for lack of better words, and try to be that player that people aspire to for all the right reasons. I don't think that's egotistical or I forget the word is now, but
I just love to be able to get better to where I can like help other people.
Yeah.
And like help them and help the sport grow and like help them get better and be able to be like able to guide them more.
Use your powers for good and for the growth of dodgeball. Yeah, that's awesome. And I wanted to kind of comment about it again because we brought it up briefly with Rob. But I mean, so you entered into competitive dodgeball. I think you said 2016. And with that mentality of you want to be the best and you want to compete and you continue on that drive of pushing yourself, and then you make Team USA for US Dodgeball for the World Cup. What was that like? I mean, granted, unfortunately you're injured, but just being able to be selected for that and represent the US in a different style of dodgeball.
That was really cool. Nonchalant way of saying it.
It was cool.
It was cool. It was cool.
No big.
It was a great experience because one of my goals to try out for that, and I know there's obviously like a little bit controversy about it, was that I just wanted to play cloth again, but my goal was to try and make this team so I can play against some of my friends that I used to play with in England. Right. So being able to get that and be like, look, I play in England and like, look at how I've grown, and that now I can like be able to play against some of the girls I played with who were like, some of them play with Ireland, a couple of girls play with England, one of my close friends plays for Scotland, and being able to be like, oh, I can now play against you and it be at an international level. So when I found out about that I made that cloth team, I was like, oh, not only am I getting to play cloth in America competitively, but I get to play against my friends. And then broke my ankle and it was like instant like heartbreak. So I couldn't play against them. Yes. But I think it was this year, technically the last year, I got picked to play in the combine. But that was the week after I broke my ankle. But that was something that I wish I could have gone to. I think it worked out that luckily I'd said that because I'd moved to Ohio like a month after that. I was like, I can't afford to go out there. But that's something that I would want to do, because then I'd love to play against, or like have the opportunity to play against some of the top players in the USA Dodgeball and WDBF, be able to play against them and like see how I can learn from them. So even being selected for that combine was like a huge thing for me. I was like, oh my God.
That's awesome. Yeah.
More fellow.
That's really cool. I mean, again, just kind of getting to know you more and understand your dodgeball background and your story from, I started playing, I didn't really take to it at first. It was because badminton said I couldn't play if I didn't make the team, to, moving back over here, to being selected to play for USA Dodgeball, Team USA, to being invited to the combine. I mean, that's really freaking impressive. And it just makes me wonder, like, what's in store for you moving forward. So
yeah, hopefully if I get better.
And that's the thing, is like, you just keep a level head the entire time. Like, you're just constantly striving to get better and play better and learn and adapt, and not letting anything get in the way, which kind of feeds into the other question. And that is, since we're early into 2019, is there a specific event that you're looking forward to the most this year?
Oh, specific event. To be honest, I'm just looking forward to round one.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to going to Elite.
which is next weekend, right?
Yes, it's
coming really soon.
We fly out to Philly on Friday, so I'm excited.
Oh, nice. What time? I might be able to get this ready by then.
We fly.
Give me a deadline.
I think it's at like our flight's at 6 p.m. or something.
Ooh, 3 p.m. Okay, I'll try.
4 p.m. I can't do math. 4 p.m. where you are. I'm really looking forward to round one, just because my elite season was cut short, unfortunately, and then I couldn't play at nationals. But there's a lot of stuff my goal for this year is to try, especially because we're in Ohio and we don't have access to as much like competitive dodgeball. One of my big goals is to travel more. So like we went to the LA Classic. I'm going to the East rounds. I'm going to try and do South round one. gonna. Now I know that the North has a women's division. They've just come out with like a 4v4 women's division.
Yep, they're trying to grow that too.
Yeah, if it's in round 2, I was going to try and go. I'm hoping to go to the Twin Cities Throwdown. That's nice. In April. I think that's that foam tournament. And I know they do like a women's draft and then a co-ed. I think the Boosh guys are hosting it. But I'm aiming to go to that. And then I think one of my biggest goals for the year is to get invited to the Combine event again. And then being able to just go and then try and learn from the best players. But that might be a lot to ask, but hopefully.
Well, there's a lot of time between now and then, I believe, and I'm pretty sure we'll learn about like which events will be scouted and how that whole process goes. But I mean, just from what you've accomplished last year, I mean, who knows? Like I'd say your chances are pretty good just if you continue on this path. So definitely hope that pans out for you.
Hope so too.
Let's finally, I saved this question for last. This is my favorite question, and that is, what is your favorite dodgeball memory to date, given all that you've done so far? I
think I have like 2.
Awesome.
A couple.
Came prepared. Excellent.
You're like, I've already prepared. No. So one, it was East round 2 last year. We were in Baltimore, and we were playing against Tigers. So it's like, I think there was another player left on my team, Jose. This was when I was playing with Arkham and co-ed. And we were playing against Tigers, and I think we played against them, and I'd managed to get like 3 or 4 of their players out. And then it was just me and Jose, and it was Tim Wells left on the court. And we were going back and forth for a little bit. And he wasn't throwing at Jose. He was like going at me, and I was dodging it, going back and forth. And then all of majority of the girls that play on my women's team just happened to be watching the game. And I just hear like, go Jenny, go Jenny. And then it was like me and Tim were staring each other down. And then I went for it, and he went to try and go for the catch. But I pegged him right just above his ankle on his shin and got him out and won the game. And then all the girls were like, "Whoa!" And I ended up doing this like sidestep gorilla move. So I was like, "Oh yes!" And it's not necessarily that I closed out the game. It was just that reaction to it, and like having my women's team on the other side, like, "Whoa!"
What?
You're like, "What are you doing?" But it was funny.
Is it on film by any chance?
I don't know. Hopefully somewhere.
It's gotta be. Tim always films the Tigers and himself playing, so it's out there. It's gotta be.
Probably got it hidden somewhere because I've got him out.
No, we gotta unearth that. It's gotta be. That's awesome.
And then another one that it was recently was like that LA Classic, and I love Crystal for it. So we were playing against Vince's team. I forgot what they were called. Was it In My Feelings? It was Vince, right. Billy, and with Azalea, Lauren Hoffman, I think Kiki too. So when we played, I think it was the No Sting round robin, we were playing against them, and in one of the games I had gone up to throw, and then Vince threw at me from like 5 feet away, and I was down on the ground, laid down, and I'd caught it. And then everybody was like, "Whoa!" And then Billy threw at me, and I just missed it ever so slightly.
Oh man.
And then I got out, and then Crystal goes up to me, and she's like, "What?" And then later on, when we played 8.5, we played them again, and it was I think it was like down to just me by myself, And then it was Kiki, Azalea, and or it was just those two, and me and someone else. The guys withdrew. Kiki caught it, brought Billy in, and then he like instantly rushes, and then he goes to throw at me. I catch Billy, and then bring in another teammate. We knock out Azalea, and then it's like me and Kiki going back and forth for a while, and then eventually she ended up getting me out. And I was like, oh, so close to winning that game. And then Crystal just comes up to me. She's like, so you know that time when you caught Vince and Billy?
Nice.
So the entire tournament she said that, and I was like, oh, that just makes me feel really good.
Good to Crystal to do that. She's an amazing person. She's really good
She's
at that.
so sweet.
Yeah, she's the best.
But yeah, those were just some fun times. But I know when I caught Vince, every time we played afterwards, he had like a vendetta.
That'll happen.
I was like, oh no, he's gunning for me.
You've been marked. So you said like you fell back and caught. Was that you adjusting for not being able to move forward as much, or was that just pure reaction?
I so elegantly fell.
Gotcha.
Or I was like, I'd gone for like a cover, so I was counterattacking, and then I had placed myself where I was like right at the front, and I just caught Vince in my peripheral vision, and he just like rushed up. And I think it was like when I was turning to move, I kind of just ended up being on my back.
Gotcha.
And so when he threw, it was like almost an ideal position.
You just set up for a catch.
It wasn't me just going like, well, I was like, oh, I've got to catch it. But as soon as the ball hit me, I was like, don't let go of it.
Hold on for dear life.
Yeah. So then when Billy threw, I was like, don't let go of it. Oh, no. It's like I almost had a Vince and then Billy from 5 feet away.
Oh, that'd be incredible. You would have heard the entire thing go crazy.
Yeah, I wouldn't have let Billy. He wouldn't hear the end of it.
No, and that would be fair not to. Like he deserves to hear it forever.
We went for Korean. We went to Korean barbecue after, and I was talking to him, and I was like, "Oh, so do you remember when I caught your ball and I almost caught your other?"
It's just like that, huh?
Yeah.
Nice. Oh man, kind of wish you did, just so you can continue to get on him, tease him about that.
Yeah, I think those were some of my favorite moments playing. But I think it's not just like, oh, for what I did. I think it's just like hearing some people's reactions, and then it's like responding to that. Like you're like, oh, thank you.
I think that's the thing is like when I ask people about their favorite moments, it's not something personal that they do or that they share or experience by themselves. It usually involves a collective of assortment of other people, players, friends, family that were sharing in that moment with them, and so that might be like the common theme there. But well, hopefully, I mean, I'm sure there's many more to come, and I'm just thinking about going from again catching this canon person who's probably no big deal at the time to catching somebody like Vince and then Billy, and then just seeing again the evolution of your journey, and I'm looking forward to seeing what's in store for you in the future and seeing how that all plays out. But since we're kind of I think you got a lot of dodgeball left, but I think we're getting past probably by the time this is edited, maybe the 2:35 mark, which is fine by me, but might want to have to bring this to a close here.
Talking.
Yeah, no, it was good, and it was I mean, there's a lot of elements that you're able to bring in. Just talking about like the European aspect, been meaning to dabble into that some more. And I just remember when I talked to you during the LA Classic, I was like, oh, this is a perfect opportunity to do that. So it was a great conversation, and thank you so much for your time. But I think for now we'll kind of just end the interview there and pick up some other time.
Oh, yes.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jenny, for hopping on and for being willing to spend so much time on the podcast. If you're still listening, I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. There's definitely a lot to cover, and I really enjoyed going into the whole European scene just a little bit. And I definitely plan on doing it more in the future. So this is kind of like a warm up to that. But it was awesome. A lot of good stories people have, I'm realizing, and I know that we're kind of itching towards now the 3-hour mark, but as I said before, I don't really apologize for that. There's always pause, there's always eventually there'll be like a table of contents, But also on that note, if you haven't noticed already, I did start I put all of the previous episodes onto YouTube, because YouTube actually does save your place, and it's also just another channel which to be able to release these episodes. So yeah, there you go. That's my answer to these the long form podcasts is, hey, if it's too much, push pause, catch it on YouTube, and yeah, I just hope you enjoy it all around. So for those of you that are traveling to Elite East Round 1, good luck. Definitely hoping I can catch you guys in time for those commutes. For everybody else, Elite's coming. I'm excited. This month is going to kick off a lot of dodgeball, this month being March. But anyway, I am now rambling because the coffee has finally hit, so I'm going to just end it here. So if you're still listening, have a great rest of your weekend. Great evening, and we'll catch you next time. Okay, so we'll go ahead and begin with Colleen, oh boy.
Colleen?
Colleen. I told you I do this all the time. I read Colin Dowling. I said Colleen. Like, yeah, it's, it'll probably come out more now, but
yeah. I'll be like, oh, I think I know names, and then as soon as I say something,